Chapter 2195, Spatial Sight. 1. The Grand Universe Hall. In the profound depths of the vast void, a massive silver-white star quietly floated. Three figures abruptly appeared not far from this star. It's about to end. The president looked at the silver-white star and opened his mouth. I never expected him to obtain a God-stage legacy, the Fire God-stage martial warrior remarked with a complex expression. What's more, it's the legacy of a space element God-stage martial warrior. This is the only one in the Grand Universe Hall. The lightning God-stage martial warrior shook his head and sighed. Stop pretending, you two. We made a bet, and it's time to settle it. The president chuckled. The expressions of the two God-stage martial warriors stiffened. They felt a bit frustrated. Since Wang Teng received a God-stage legacy, they lost their bet. Whether it was the five-colored soil that the Fire God-stage martial warrior took out or the Lightning Tribulation elixir that the Lightning God-stage martial warrior took, they were both rare treasures. It was enough to make the two God-stage martial warriors' hearts ache for a long time. The two God-stage martial warriors felt a bit reluctant, but they couldn't renege on the bet. In the end, they took out their respective bets and handed them over to the president. Good, good. The president laughed heartily. He was extremely pleased as he accepted the items amidst the somewhat reluctant gazes of the two God-stage martial warriors. This kid, why did he have to be so different? The Fire God-stage martial warrior said helplessly. Yeah, he could have just taken an eternal stage inheritance. Why such grand ambitions? The Lightning God-stage martial warrior also expressed his frustration. Ha ha ha, the president couldn't help but burst into laughter. It was amusing to see the two God-stage powerhouses grumbling about a junior having such exceptional talent. If this were to be known by others, it would undoubtedly be a source of great amusement. While the three were conversing, the silver-white star in front of them suddenly trembled, catching their attention. Boom! A thunderous roar echoed as terrifying spatial fluctuations radiated from within the silver-white star. The president and the two God-stage beings remained remarkably composed, standing calmly only tens of meters away from the silver-white star. The intense spatial ripples emanated from the star, sweeping over them, but they were completely unscathed. There was not a hint of disturbance in the space around them. This was the ability of a God-stage martial warrior. With their mastery of space, the feeble force of space couldn't affect the spatial stability around them. Amidst the thunderous sound, the silver-white star slowly contracted. The surface radiance subdued, revealing intricate runes within it. Crack! These runes formed chains, entwining around the black-haired young man at the center. Boom! The next moment, all the runes completely shattered, transforming into a myriad of starlight, vanishing into the void. The radiance of the entire silver-white star also entirely retracted. The black-haired young man within the star finally slowly opened his eyes. Two silver-white beams shot out from his eyes, piercing through the depths of the void. This light was strange as if it could penetrate space, appearing instantaneously at unimaginable distances. It took a while for the radiance in the young man's eyes to gradually recede. However, his pupils still maintained an extremely peculiar silver-white color, emitting an ultimate sense of coldness and majesty. The two God-stage martial warriors lightly exclaimed, observing Wang Teng's eyes, and their eyes gradually revealed a hint of surprise. His eyes underwent a transformation, allowing him to see through space, the president said. The two God-stage beings nodded. They naturally also saw the clues and became increasingly astonished. What great fortune! One never expected that the abilities of that space-true god from years ago to pass down in this manner. The Fire God-stage martial warrior sighed. For Wang Teng to gain the recognition of this legacy, his space talent must be extraordinary. The Lightning God-stage martial warrior remarked. At this moment, Wang Teng's eyes gradually returned to their original state, no longer displaying the previous silver-white color. He looked at the president and the two God-stage martial warriors, slightly stunned. Immediately, he walked over and respectfully saluted. Presidents, elders, Wang Ting, you surprise us. You managed to get the God-stage space legacy, the president stroked his beard and said. You're flattering me. I'm just lucky, Wang Teng replied humbly. I'm not praising you. We saw the entire process of you searching for the legacy. This isn't luck. The president chuckled. Wang Ting scratched his head, looking a bit shy. Ha ha ha. The president and the two God-stage martial warriors burst out laughing when they saw his reaction. Wang Ting, you are indeed outstanding. Among the many geniuses I've encountered, you are undoubtedly the first. The Fire God-stage martial warrior patted Wang Ting on the shoulder, sincerely praising him. Wang Ting was genuinely surprised. Ambitious but not reckless. Once you make a choice, you are decisive. To put it simply, not everyone can achieve this. The Lightning God-stage martial warrior nodded in agreement. Wang Ting didn't know what to say anymore. He even felt a bit overwhelmed. The president and these two God-stage elders were speaking so kindly, praising him incessantly, making him feel a bit awkward. Wang Ting, do you know what will happen if you hesitate when you see the God-stage legacy? The president asked. There wasn't much time left. If I had hesitated any longer, I'm afraid I would have missed this legacy, Wang Teng replied. That's right. You were very close to missing it. Just a bit more hesitation, and you would have missed this legacy, the president said. It seems my luck is quite good. Wang Teng couldn't help but feel fortunate. If he had been a little slower at that time, he might have truly missed out on this legacy. Chapter 2196, Spatial Sight. 2. In this regard, you do have quite good luck. The president chuckled. Wang Teng grinned. He felt like the president was unusually happy. His smile was exceptionally bright. Let's go. Since you've obtained the legacy, it's time to leave, the president said. Before Wang Ting could react, he felt a sudden blur, and in an instant, he disappeared from where he stood. Almost instantly, he found himself standing on solid ground. The scene before him was none other than the square of the Grand Universe Hall. Wang Teng's eyes showed surprise. The true god's methods were truly incredible. This teleportation speed was even faster than his. Wang Teng, although we haven't taken you as a disciple, if you encounter any problems in your cultivation or troubles you can't solve, you can come to us. The president's voice echoed in Wang Teng's ears, but there was no sign of the president himself. Wang Teng looked around. The president and the two God-stage beings had quietly left without him noticing. The president's voice dissipated gradually, and Wang Teng, with a slight joy in his heart, bowed toward the sky. To receive such a promise from the president indicated that his master held quite a bit of weight. Wang Teng didn't know that he helped the president to win the bet against the other two God-stage beings. That was why he was elated and offered him help. Of course, one of the reasons was because they had high hopes for Wang Teng. As a member of the Stellar Academies, they naturally hoped that Wang Teng could go even further. Without lingering any further, Wang Teng left the Grand Universe Hall Square. The place was now empty. Everyone had left, and the Grand Disciple Acceptance Ceremony had long concluded. It was somewhat nostalgic. Among the strong individuals of the Stellar Academies, he was the only one who hadn't taken a master, and instead, he found a master from an unknown origin. After leaving the square, Wang Teng took out his universe-level spacecraft and flew toward the residence area for Cosmos Stage students. In no time, the spaceship returned to Wang Teng's estate. Stepping out of the spaceship, he descended from the sky. Back in the estate, Cao Jiaojiao, upon learning the news, emerged from the cultivation chamber. Has the Grand Disciple Acceptance Ceremony ended? She had been alone in the estate, unable to leave, but she could access some information through the internal network. Hence, she knew about the Grand Disciple Acceptance Ceremony. It's over. Wang Teng nodded. I saw many people discussing it on the internal network, saying that you don't have a master. Cao Jiaojiao hesitated for a moment and asked. Who said one don't have a master? Wang Teng was surprised. I don't know where it came from at first. Later, a guy named Yuan Mu came out to confirm it, and many people from your Constellation Society also confirmed it, Cao Jiaojiao said. Wang Teng's expression was strange. He asked Round Ball to open the internal network and check some of the information. He couldn't help but find it amusing. It turned out that these people thought he didn't have a master. He even saw quite a few sarcastic comments. It seemed that many people were very pleased about the fact that he didn't have a master. Unfortunately for them, they were destined for disappointment. Wang Teng couldn't help but stroke his chin, a wicked curve forming at the corner of his mouth. He had no intention of clarifying the situation. He would let these people continue to misunderstand. Observing his expression, Cao Jiaojiao instantly knew that Wang Ting definitely had a master, and the master he chose wasn't ordinary. Those people were in for an unpleasant surprise. Your cultivation has improved quite a bit, Wang Teng remarked, looking at Cao Jiaojiao. Yeah, Cao Jiaojiao nodded. The stellar academies had an abundance of forces, making it very conducive to cultivation. Even though she couldn't leave the estate, practicing here was much easier than outside. Well done. Keep up the good work. Wang Ting praised, then headed towards the house. A hint of joy involuntarily appeared in Cao Jiaojiao's eyes, even though she didn't realize it. Pleased by Wang Ting's praise, a trace of excitement unknowingly fluttered in her heart. I'm exhausted. Come and serve me for a bath, Wang Ting said. Cao Jiaojiao's pretty face immediately stiffened. Skip 5,000 words here. When Wang Ting walked out of the bathroom, he felt refreshed, and much of the fatigue that had clung to his body had dissipated. The Grand Disciple Acceptance Ceremony was an exhausting experience for him. Climbing 2 mountains consecutively, both physically and mentally, imposed a significant burden. Even during the ascent of the second mountain, his spirit had nearly reached the point of collapse. After that, he was brought to the Grand Universe Hall to choose his legacy. To get more attributes, he searched for all kinds of legacy without stopping. He almost died from exhaustion. Fortunately, the harvest this time was extremely abundant. His hard work had not been in vain. Entering the cultivation room, Wang Ting sat cross-legged, prepared to take stock of this fruitful journey. First and foremost, he had gained a master. This master seemed to be a super powerhouse, but the extent of their strength remained unclear to him. Wang Ting took out the token his master gave him and scrutinized it. The patterns on it were extremely peculiar, but he couldn't discern their meaning. Helplessly, he put it away. Too bad one can't speak to him anymore, Wang Ting said dejectedly. He then stroked his chin and continued, but it's still good. With the president and the others, even if it's not as close as having a personal master, occasionally getting their help should be fine. I need to strike a balance and not be too presumptuous. Sigh, after all, they're not my masters. Wang Ting sighed uncontrollably. Afterward, he stopped dwelling on it and turned his attention to himself. Compared to external forces, his own strength was the most crucial. Redirecting his thoughts, he glanced at the attributes board, and a slight smile formed at the corners of his mouth. Chapter 2197, Spatial Sight. 3. The 3 origins of universe his master gave him pushed him to the limit of the cosmos stage. This was an unimaginable benefit. Without his master's assistance, he would have to think of a way to reach his limit when he broke through in the future. Doing so would undoubtedly increase the difficulty significantly. The origin of universe was incredibly precious. It was refined from a destroyed universe in the cosmic uncharted. If it were not for his master, Wang Teng would probably find it very difficult to obtain such treasures. In addition, he acquired various legacies in the Grand Universe Hall, including nearly a complete set of Cosmos Stage Star Formula scriptures. Wang Teng closed his eyes, and the scriptures immediately appeared in his mind for comparison. He found that these scriptures could indeed be integrated. However, this integration was different from his Chaos Constellation scripture. It wasn't a complete fusion. Instead, it seemed to form a kind of cycle. Also, this set of scripture seems to have some deficiencies. Wang Ting opened his eyes, a glint of light shimmering in them. He mused to himself, is it lacking a dark force scripture? Hence the discontinuity when reaching the light force scripture. Wang Teng's mastery of forces was too comprehensive, allowing him to notice the issue at a glance. Normal martial warriors might not notice this problem. Of course, for an ordinary martial warrior, the integration of this set of scriptures was unnecessary. At most, it could serve as a foundation for cultivating multiple forces simultaneously. However, This scripture provided many insights for Wang Ting and was quite helpful for him in creating the Heaven Stage Chaos Constellation scripture. If I can create the star dark formula, could it compensate for the shortcomings in this star formula scripture? Wang Ting pondered, unable to suppress a laugh. After all, he was not the predecessor who created this set of star formula scripture. It wasn't so easy to create a dark attribute scripture rooted in the same origin as this one, based on the foundations laid by his predecessors. This idea was somewhat wishful thinking. Shaking his head, Wang Ting shifted his gaze to the gains from the Space Legacy. Space God Stage Legacy. It was the last inheritance Wang Ting obtained, bringing him immense benefits beyond imagination. First, there was the rise in his space physique. After obtaining this inheritance, the power within greatly benefited his space physique, significantly advancing its capabilities. Space Physique, 1200-500000, 5th rank. Wang Teng's Space Physique, initially at the 4th rank, had now ascended to the 5th rank. It rose by 1 rank. He felt that his perception of spatial power had become more sensitive, achieving a deeper resonance with spatial forces. Moreover, he found it easier to comprehend the laws of space. Wang Ting extended his hand, strands of spatial power emerging around his fingers. They swiftly spun, forming a small spatial vortex that distorted the surrounding space. A dark, spatial portal appeared. It feels quite effortless. Wang Ting smiled faintly. The prowess of the 5th rank space physique was indeed remarkable. With his current mastery of spatial power, he might not even need to worry about the spatial restrictions imposed by universe stage martial warriors. He could break through them. Next, he glanced at another attribute, and a surge of ecstasy welled up within him. Spatial Sight, 1000-10,000, real stage. This was an ability he acquired from the legacy, somewhat akin to space physique, representing another facet of his spatial talent. However, this talent manifested in his eyes. Spatial Sight possessed various abilities, with the simplest being the power to unleash spatial attacks through the eyes. Taking advantage of the element of surprise, it could emit a powerful spatial light wave, demonstrating formidable destructive capabilities that few could withstand. This seemed to be an excellent way to sneak an attack on someone. Moreover, it had other capabilities, such as teleportation. By focusing attention on an object, it could initiate spatial transfers. The transferred objects were not limited to lifeless ones. In critical moments, this move could be used to create unexpected troubles for enemies. For example, during a battle, suddenly shifting an opponent's teammate into the line of their attacks would make others bear the damage. He felt a little excited just thinking about it. But, why did he always think about these sneaky tactics? Wang Ting felt a bit speechless. Shaking his head, he thought about other potential uses. This move seemed like it could also be employed for rescue purposes. Yes, rescuing. When a companion faced danger, this technique could be used to shift them out of harm's way. Chapter 2198. My situation is special. 1. What? Wang Ting nodded, feeling quite clever. He could use his abilities for both deceptive and altruistic purposes, pushing his capabilities to the extreme. At this moment, his hands felt a bit itchy. No, his eyes felt a bit itchy. He activated Spatial Sight and a radiant silver light flashed. His irises transformed into a dazzling silver hue. With spatial power circulating within him, his gaze fell upon several objects in the corner of the cultivation room. Swoosh! Those objects instantly vanished from their original positions. Well, half of them disappeared. The other half remained in place. The separated interface was smooth and flat. Wang Ting's expression turned slightly awkward. It was his first time using it, and he hadn't quite mastered it. Fortunately, it wasn't a human undergoing the experiment. Otherwise, the person would be split into two. It was quite terrifying to imagine. It seemed like this innate ability needed more experimentation. Failing at a critical moment would be embarrassing. Well, he should find some enemies to test it out on at some point. Then, he gathered ice force in his palm, forming an icy mirror, and checked his eyes. Oh my, how did I end up looking like this? Wang Ting was surprised as he observed his pupils. When he activated his real eye, at most, his eyes gained a golden glow. However, with spatial sight, his entire pupils turned silver white, altering his entire aura. He carefully observed his eyes. The transformation was not just a simple shift to silver white but resembled diamonds with a facet-like structure, incredibly dazzling and brilliant. It looked extraordinarily strange, unlike human pupils. TSK, my eyes are getting weirder and weirder. Wang Ting couldn't help but click his tongue in amazement. Besides the aforementioned two functions, the spatial sight had another magical ability, space opening. As the name suggested, he could open an independent space within the eyes, which could be used for storage and even concealing a person within it. It was an excellent method for escaping. However, when facing an extremely powerful opponent with a highly sensitive spatial perception, escaping might not be feasible. This ability was somewhat similar to the principles of space fragment and the small world of universe stage martial warriors. The only difference was the location of the space. One was within the body, and the other was within the eyeballs. Opening a space within the eyeballs, even with the talent of spatial sight, was extremely risky. One small mistake and the eyes could explode into goo. The size of the space opened by spatial sight is related to the space power. With my current 5th rank space physique, I should be able to open a relatively sizable space, Wang Ting muttered to himself. Fortunately, one obtained the legacy, greatly enhancing my mastery of spatial power. I should be able to open a space smoothly. He decided to give it a try since having an additional open space would undoubtedly be beneficial. Wang Ting closed his eyes and reviewed the insights left by the true God Stage legacy regarding opening space. These were the experiences of that God Stage entity in opening space initially, saving him a lot of trouble and potential danger. After a moment, Wang Ting took a deep breath. He mobilized the spatial power within his body, slowly channeling it towards his eyes. The spatial power circulated within his eyes, allowing them to adapt to the presence of spatial power. He then gradually increased the concentration of spatial power within his eyes until they felt saturated. This preparation step took several hours. The eyes were delicate, and even though Wang Ting's eyes possessed various abilities, making them much stronger than an ordinary person's, they were still one of the most vulnerable parts of the body. Thus, he dared not take any risks. Once prepared, Wang Ting steeled himself and forcefully directed the spatial power within his eyes toward a specific point. Boom! A thunderous sound echoed, accompanied by intense pain. Wang Ting's eyes involuntarily shed tears of blood. What the heck? Wang Ting couldn't help but curse. It was way more painful than he expected. The legacy didn't mention that. However, at this moment, he couldn't afford to dwell on the pain. He could only frantically mobilize spatial power and continue to charge towards that focal point. Boom! 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 A series of explosions echoed incessantly, and Wang Ting's eyes were undergoing brutal torment. The excruciating pain almost killed him. He tightly shut his eyes, and his eyelids trembled incessantly. Blood tears flowed, nearly flooding his cheeks. It was a tragic sight. Time passed slowly. The cultivation room turned silent. At some point, Wang Teng's eyes stopped shedding blood tears, and his eyelids ceased their trembling as if the intense pain had subsided. This is so painful. Wang Teng slowly opened his eyes, gritting his teeth. The silver-white irises even showed a hint of bloody red. But soon, a smile appeared on his face, followed by hearty laughter. Success! Wang Teng was in high spirits. The process went much smoother than he had imagined. Although he endured significant pain in the middle, the outcome was positive, and no unexpected issues arose. In the next moment, his figure vanished from the original spot, reappearing in another spatial realm. What's this? Round Ball materialized on the side, scrutinizing the surroundings in astonishment. Did you create a space with your spatial sight? That's right. Wang Teng nodded and sized up his surroundings. This newly created space was much smaller than his space fragment, almost only 1% of their size. Nevertheless, Wang Teng was very satisfied. Chapter 2199, My Situation is Special. 2. He had an extra space. What more could he ask for? Besides, This space fragment could continue growing, and it's not fixed in its current size. There was no need to worry about it being too small. Did you get this ability from the legacy? One round ball asked. It was present when Wang Teng received the legacy. However, Re-President and the two Godstage martial warriors were present, so it didn't dare to appear. Hence, it knew clearly that Wang Ting had obtained Re-Legacy. He didn't expect the Godstage space legacy to be so amazing, granting Wang Ting a unique innate ability. Well, yes, but it's also because one possessed the space physique. Otherwise, one wouldn't be able to activate the spatial sight, Wang Teng explained. Round Ball nodded, acknowledging rarity of space talent. It was not something one could attain solely through a legacy. Wang Teng's ability to activate the spatial sight likely stemmed from his innate space talent. In this light, everything began to make sense. I didn't know that the spatial sight is so amazing. Round Ball exclaimed, your talent is becoming increasingly formidable. There's no strongest, only stronger. You'll realize that what one have now is just the beginning, Wang Teng remarked. You're something. Round Ball rolled its eyes. Space physique was already considered one of the top talents in the universe. Anything stronger would seemingly transcend the cosmos. However, it didn't bother to argue. The more it contested, the more enthusiastic Wang Teng became. It wasn't going to give him the satisfaction. With this spatial ability, I won't need to rely on space fragments everywhere. Those fragments are my secret garden, not to be accessed by just anyone, Wang Teng explained. You've cultivated so many precious herbs in your space fragment. It would be a pity if they were accidentally destroyed, Round Ball remarked. Indeed, Wang Teng nodded. He and Round Ball then exited the space. Wang Teng was extremely satisfied with Re-3 abilities of Re-Spatial Sight. The convenience of using them with just a glance was beyond comparison. Was there a talent or skill more convenient and user-friendly than this? In addition to the enhancements in space physique and spatial sight, Wang Teng gained numerous scriptures, battle techniques, and insights into the origins and domains from the Godstage space element legacy. Wang Ting was surprised by the scripture. The Godslayer sword scripture. That's right, the scripture he received in the legacy was the Godslayer sword scripture he received when he climbed the stairs in the Great Qian Empire. This revelation led Wang Ting to entertain some speculations. Could there be some connection between the ancestor of the Great Qian Empire and the Stellar Academies? Godslayer sword scripture, first stance slaying God 6000 10,000, foundation, Godslayer sword scripture, second stance void shatter 5000 10,000, foundation. The Godslayer sword scripture consisted of a total of 9 forms, with Wang Ting having previously mastered the first form, slaying God. Now, within the legacy, he gained unexpected joy by comprehending the second form, void shatter. After all, if left to Wang Ting's own devices, it would require a considerable amount of time to gradually comprehend. As splendid as God's scriptures were, they weren't easily cultivated. Many geniuses, upon obtaining a God scripture, would spend a lifetime contemplating it, and even then, understanding it fully was not guaranteed. The name of the second form, void shatter, may not resonate as loudly as the first, but its power was not to be underestimated. With a single sword strike, the fabric of space shattered, leaving the opponent with nowhere to hide. If struck, the enemy, along with the space they occupied, would utterly disintegrate, a truly terrifying prospect. Wang Ting nodded. This technique was undoubtedly a killer move and the strongest among all the divine skills he currently possessed. Even the fourth sword of the 12 swords of Tyrant and the third move of the Godslayer sword scripture might not be his match. With this move, Wang Ting now held an ace of overwhelming strength. Even without using his endless tornado, this technique alone could contend with many opponents far beyond Wang Ting's current capabilities. Next, Wang Ting looked at the space domain and the origin of space attributes. These two attributes increased tremendously. Space domain, 1205,000, 5th rank, 602,000, 2nd rank actualization phase, origin of space, 6550 10,000, 1st rank. His space domain rose from the 4th rank to the 5th rank. It rose by a level, but its power was many times stronger. A 5th rank space domain was almost on par with a 6th rank or 7th rank 5-element domain. Wang Teng was pleasantly surprised that his space domain had reached the actualization phase too. What's more, it was at the second rank. The comprehension of the actualization phase meant that Wang Ting had taken another step forward in the space domain, enhancing the potency he could unleash. The power of laws of origin also experienced a considerable boost. Initially hovering around a modest 1,000 to nearly 2,000 points, it now surpassed 6,500 points, inching closer to the pinnacle and not far from breaking through the second rank. It was worth noting that the laws of the origin of space were more challenging to comprehend compared to other law forces. The significant improvement this time was a clear advantage gained from the legacy of the true God. Indeed, he had struck it big this time. Choosing a God stage legacy was undoubtedly the correct decision. Wang Teng couldn't help but marvel at the wisdom of his choice. Fortune favors the bold. This legacy came without any inherent danger, and if he couldn't dare to risk such an opportunity, then he might as well be squandering it. In the future, encountering situations with immense peril but accompanied by tremendous opportunities, would he not be even more cautious? The benefits of a God stage legacy were apparent. In the end, last acquisition that left Wang Teng quite satisfied was the attribute of the spiritual hollow mountain. In Wang Teng's eyes, this attribute was not inferior to an ordinary God stage legacy. Wang Teng mastered the art of constructing the spiritual hollow mountain, making it an excellent choice whether for forging weapons or employing it directly as a spiritual assault. Regardless of the chosen application, the construction of the spiritual hollow mountain was no simple task. However, when Wang Teng ascended the spiritual hollow mountain, he had already collected all runes on its surface. He now possessed complete knowledge of all the runes associated with the spiritual hollow mountain. With his proficiency in handling it, he could easily construct it with a bit of time. This was not an insurmountable task. Speaking of which, if one used the spiritual hollow mountain forge weapons, it doesn't necessarily have to be shaped like a mountain, right? Wang Ting stroked his chin, silently contemplating. The outward appearance shouldn't have too much influence. As a blacksmith with his own thoughts, Wang Ting believed that aesthetics were merely superficial. Previously, he had transformed the thunder seal into the lightning slap. Who knows, maybe this time he could turn the spiritual hollow mountain into the spiritual hollow slap? However, for now, it was just a passing thought. The materials needed to forge the spiritual hollow mountain were highly specialized, requiring various attributes to meet specific criteria. A simple lightning attribute wouldn't suffice. When Wang Ting forged the lightning slap, aside from the main material, the dark weight luminary gold, he also used various lightning attributed materials. The materials required for the spiritual hollow mountain were even more complex and unexpected. Wang Ting planned to visit the Academy's mountain forging section later to see if he could exchange the necessary materials. Apart from these significant gains, there isn't much else to mention, just some scattered scriptures, battle techniques, and domains. There was no need to dwell on those. Wang Ting let out a faint sigh, feeling quite content. Wang Teng, Yu Chichiao, and the others are looking for you. At that moment, Round Ball's voice came through. Looking for me? Wang Ting paused for a moment, then smiled. Seems like it's about the disciple matter. Probably, everyone is quite concerned about you, Round Ball remarked. Let them in. I'll be waiting for them in the living room, Wang Ting said as he walked out of the cultivation room. All right. Round Ball opened the gate through the estate's intelligence system, allowing Yu Chichiao and the others to enter. When Wang Ting came to the living room, Yu Chichiao, Yu Yunxian, Borit, and the other talents who joined later, including Wu Yang, Tai Beisho, Baichuan Liu, and many others, came too. Please sit. Wang Ting smiled and gestured for everyone to take a seat. He then asked, have all of you found a master? We've all found masters. What about you? Yu Chichiao furrowed her brow. As the president of the Constellation Society, whether or not Wang Ting had found a master was of great significance. My situation is a bit special. Don't worry about me, Wang Teng replied with a casual smile. Really? Yu Chichiao asked. Wu Yang, Tai Beisho, and the others looked at him in surprise. A special situation? How special was it? Chapter 2200, A Terrifying Number of Materials. The Academy Arbitration Association Assessment. 1. Of course, Wang Ting said, feeling a bit amused as Yu Qiqiao still seemed somewhat skeptical. Why didn't any strong individuals from our academy take you as their disciple? Borit couldn't help but ask. It's hard to say, Wang Teng replied. Does it have something to do with your disappearance at the top of the spiritual hollow mountain? Wu Yang suddenly spoke up. Didn't expect you to be quite clever. Wang Ting glanced at him, chuckling. Wu Yang was speechless. What do you mean by didn't expect? Did you think I was stupid? Others were also curious. Did his disappearance at the top of the spiritual hollow mountain have something to do with it? After you disappeared at the top of the spiritual hollow mountain, where did you go? Yu Qiqiao couldn't help but ask. It's not something one can disclose. Wang Ting adopted a mysterious expression, shaking his head. Everyone was speechless, but there was nothing they could do. If Wang Ting didn't want to say, they couldn't press him further. It seems we worried for nothing. You must have had some other fortuitous encounter. Yu Qiqiao looked at Wang Ting, her eyes flickering. Wang Ting smiled. Do we need to spread this news? Many people outside have heard that you don't have a master, and some are getting restless, Yu Qiqiao said. No need to spread it. Let it be like this. Wang Ting pondered for a moment and replied. All right, Yu Qiqiao nodded. She naturally followed Wang Ting's decision on this matter. With the assurance that everything was fine on Wang Ting's end, the atmosphere relaxed, and the group began to engage in casual conversation. Wang Ting learned about their disciple situations from the others. These talents had chosen excellent mentors. Wu Yang, Tai Beisho, Baichuan Liu, and Borit all had eternal stage rulers as their masters, and the caliber of their mentors was top-notch. Yu Qiqiao, Wade, and the others had acknowledged eternal stage martial warriors as their masters so they could receive good guidance too. Yuan Mu has an eternal stage ruler as his master. Wang Teng was surprised. He found it unexpected that with Yuan Mu's talent, there wasn't a true god willing to take him as a disciple. Yes, Yu Qiqiao nodded and explained, several eternal stage rulers were vying to take him as their disciple, but no true god stepped forward. In the end, Yuan Mu could only choose one eternal stage ruler as his master. You should have seen his dissatisfied look at that time. Wade grinned. Oh, how dissatisfied was he? Wang Teng laughed. He practically had it written on his face. But if he doesn't relent, those eternal stage rulers might not be willing to take him as a disciple in the end, Wade said. With his pride, he probably never thought about taking an eternal stage ruler as his master. Too bad things didn't go as he wished, Wang Teng commented. It's probably because of his poor performance in the end. The true gods want not only talent but also a good character. Yuan Mu is too proud, Yu Yunxian spoke up. Yeah, when true gods take disciples, having talent alone isn't enough. The character also needs to be exceptional. Yuan Mu is too arrogant, Wu Yang nodded and added, but this way, we don't have to fear him. We also have eternal stage rulers as our masters, who knows who will have the last laugh in the end. As the conversation came to an end, Wu Yang couldn't help but cast a glance at Wang Teng. This guy remained an enigma. Wu Yang couldn't discern what opportunities he had truly gained in the end. For some reason, having an eternal stage ruler as his master didn't give Wu Yang any sense of superiority. Before long, everyone departed. They had their cultivation plans and couldn't afford to waste time. Wu Yang remained obedient. After losing to Wu Yang on the spiritual hollow mountain, he joined the Constellation Society willingly without any complaints or resentment. However, when Wang Teng heard that Wn Dong and the others did not join the Constellation Society, he sneered. It seemed these people were still not being honest. Nevertheless, Wang Teng wasn't in a hurry to deal with them. In the future, they would naturally realize the meaning of regret. Wang Teng was extremely confident in the demon lotus poison he had planted. Unless an eternal stage powerhouse intervened, it was impossible to completely eradicate it. Instead of returning to the cultivation room, Wang Teng contemplated for a moment and then took out his spacecraft. He headed for the Smithery volcano. The smithery volcano was the volcano used by the Academy's blacksmiths for refining. It was not far from the alchemy volcano. You could say that they were within the same region. The spaceship quickly arrived at the smithery volcano, and Wang Ting walked out from the spacecraft, descending towards the destination. The smithery volcano was designed similarly to the alchemy volcano. Halfway up the mountain, there was a grand hall responsible for handling various affairs. The usage rights for the volcanoes were divided based on the blacksmith's level, numbered from 1 to 9. The first 3 volcanoes were designated for blacksmiths below the master level, while the 4th to 6th were available for grandmaster blacksmiths. Considering Wang Ting's current blacksmithing proficiency, which had essentially reached the later stages of the grandmaster level, he directly descended to the 6th smithery volcano. He then headed towards the administrative grand hall halfway up the mountain. Many people recognized Wang Ting. After the Grand Disciple Acceptance Ceremony, he became quite famous. Almost everywhere he went, people recognized him. His reputation was not inferior to those long-established geniuses within the Academy. Upon seeing Wang Ting, many were surprised, wondering why he had come to the smithery volcano. Was he here to have weapons forged? It wasn't impossible. Many warriors sought skilled blacksmiths here to craft custom weapons. Before he entered the Grand Hall, a burly young man, accompanied by several others, walked out. Upon spotting Wang Ting, he momentarily froze and then his eyes lit up. Junior brother Wang Ting, who are you? Wang Ting looked at the muscular young man in front of him and asked curiously. Chapter 2201 A terrifying number of materials. The Academy Arbitration Association Assessment. 2. This is senior brother Wu Shun, a 6th-level Grandmaster blacksmith. He's a genius from our smithery volcano. Before the burly young man could speak, someone behind him preemptively introduced. 6th-level Grandmaster. Wang Ting looked at the burly young man in astonishment. Despite appearing relatively young, he was a 6th-level Grandmaster blacksmith. It's senior Wu Shun. That genius blacksmith. I heard he reached 6th Grandmaster level only a few years after entering the Grandmaster level. Last time, one of our senior sisters on the top 100 Universe Stage Martial Warriors ranking specifically asked for senior brother Wu Shun's help in forging a weapon. He ended up crafting a Grandmaster 7th level battle sword and attracted a lightning calamity. The spectacle was truly magnificent. I know about this. At first, that senior sister only wanted a 6th rank Grandmaster level battle sword. In the end, senior brother Wu Shun managed to forge a 7th rank Grandmaster level 1. The senior sister was almost moved to tears. That's right, moved to tears. Senior brother Wu Shun's talent in blacksmithing is truly remarkable. The discussions around him heightened Wang Ting's astonishment. The burly young man before him was indeed a genius capable of forging weapons of superior quality. A truly rare find. Senior Wu Shun, why are you looking for me? Wang Ting asked. If you're here for weapon forging, I can take care of it for you, Wu Shun said with a smile. He was present during the Grand Disciple Acceptance Ceremony. A talent like Wang Ting was an excellent candidate for him to pull over. Hearing that Wu Shun was willingly offering to forge a weapon for Wang Ting, envy filled the hearts of the onlookers. Even if they were willing to pay a significant price, they might not be able to enlist Wu Shun's services. Geniuses like him usually only served other exceptional talents or powerful individuals. Wang Ting found it a bit amusing. Someone was unexpectedly offering to forge a weapon for him. This was a complete misunderstanding. What's the matter, junior brother? Is there anything inconvenient for you? Wu Shun inquired. It's not that. I'm here today not for forging. I just want to see if they have some specific materials I need, Wang Ting explained. No worries about that. We have all sorts of materials here at the smithery volcano. Follow me, Wu Shun said with a hearty laugh. He assumed that Wang Ting wasn't familiar with the smithery volcano's resources and the abundance of precious metals available for purchase with sufficient points. Wang Ting didn't doubt Wang Ting's spending capacity, so he led him into the administrative grand hall. Wang Ting shook his head and smiled, following the overly enthusiastic senior into the grand hall and approaching the counter. Hey, Rugina, I brought a big client for you. Wu Shen lounged on the counter, addressing the curvaceous woman behind it. Wu Shen, get as far away from me as you can. I don't have time to entertain you, the voluptuous woman retorted, rolling her eyes without a trace of friendliness. Wu Shen scratched his head and said, this time, I'm not joking. This is Wang Ting. You should know him. He's here to exchange materials. He stepped aside, revealing Wang Teng behind him. These physique cultivators had incredibly robust bodies, making Wang Ting seem quite petite in comparison. Just now, his figure had been entirely obscured by the towering individuals in front of him, making it impossible for those ahead to see him. Junior Wang Ting. Rugina's eyes lit up when she saw Wang Ting's figure behind her. She recognized him and finally believed Wu Shen's words. This time, he seemed to have brought someone reliable. Hello, senior sister. I'd like to see if you have these materials. Wang Ting handed her a list. Seeing the dense list of materials, Rugina was momentarily stunned. Her crimson lips slightly parted. This seemed like an excessive amount. Even Wu Shen, standing nearby, looked stunned. What kind of weapon required such an extensive array of materials? Junior Wang Ting, are you planning to forge numerous kinds of weapons? He inquired. No, just one. Wang Teng replied. One weapon requires this many materials. Wu Shen widened his eyes, wearing an expression that clearly said, are you kidding me? Having studied smithery for many years, he had never seen a weapon requiring such an extensive array of materials. It contradicted the basic principles of forging. Rugina, equally bewildered, stared with astonishment. Although this was indeed a significant customer, the list was just too extensive. The densely packed materials listed above made her unsure if she could find everything. Please help me find them. If some are unavailable, just let me know. Wang Ting nodded at Rugina. Oh, okay. Rugina regained her composure, looking at him oddly. She stammered a bit. What kind of weapon are you trying to forge? Can you at least give me a hint? Wu Shen couldn't believe there was a weapon in the universe that required this many materials. He couldn't help but ask out of curiosity. It's a secret. Wang Ting chuckled. All right, Wu Shen shrugged, resigned. I was considering helping you forge it, but judging by the quantity of materials, I'm afraid I won't be of much help. No worries. I just want to take a look at the materials for now. This weapon won't be forged anytime soon, Wang Ting said. Seeing his serious expression, Wu Shen started to believe him, but curiosity burned even more intensely in his heart. What kind of weapon required such an abundance of materials? Chapter 2202. A terrifying number of materials. The Academy Arbitration Association Assessment. 3. Wang Ting, your required materials have been checked, and we only have about half of them available here, Rugina, looking a bit shocked, reported from behind the counter. Such a situation had never occurred before. The smithery volcano couldn't provide all the necessary materials, and nearly half were unavailable. Only half? Wang Ting frowned, sighing inwardly. He asked, how many points do I need to exchange for these materials? It will require 39 million points, Rugina replied. All right, I'll exchange them, Wang Ting said without much hesitation. Just like that? Rugina stared at him, amazed. That was more than 1 million points. Even universe stage martial warriors wouldn't be so wealthy. Otherwise, should I leave empty-handed after coming all this way? Wang Ting said casually. Hurry up. All right. Rugina nodded hurriedly. However, she hesitated for a moment. What if Wang Ting didn't have enough points? After all, gathering so many materials was no joking matter. Wang Ting noticed her hesitation and asked with a smile, do you want to verify if I have enough points? No need. I believe you wouldn't bluff me. Rugina shook her head immediately. She didn't want to offend him by questioning his points. Rugina, you underestimated Wang Ting. He set a record on the freshman leaderboard, and the academy directly rewarded him with 1 million points. He can afford these 29 million points, Wu Shen said, smiling. Rugina suddenly realized, her eyes sparkling. She nodded and quickly turned to help Wang Ting with the exchange procedure. She mustn't let go of this big client. Other staff around were almost turning red with envy. They couldn't believe such a good opportunity wasn't theirs. Shortly after, a staff member hurriedly arrived and handed a space equipment to Rugina. Rugina nodded and quickly walked over to Wang Ting. She said, "Wang Ting, all the materials you need are in here. Please check if you need to count them." "Sure." Wang Ting nodded, letting Round Ball help with the inventory while he followed Rugina to pay the points. A total of 1.39 million points were swiped away. Wang Ting felt a bit reluctant. After purchasing these materials, he was left with only 2.34 million points. Points were indeed not easy to come by. "Are you feeling heartache for spending all the points?" Wu Shen teased upon seeing Wang Teng's expression. "A bit," Wang Teng admitted with a sigh. "But your generosity is impressive. Spending 1.39 million points for less than half the materials, and there's probably even more needed for the remaining half. I see some main materials are still missing," Wu Shen remarked. Wang Teng winced. "Senior, didn't you say everything is available here?" Wu Shen's expression froze. He felt that he was slapped in the face. He hadn't expected Wang Ting's required materials to be so specialized. They were not common forging materials. "The rest of the materials may be available, and if Junior Wang Ting needs them, we can exchange contact information. I will notify you as soon as there's any news," Rugina suggested, eagerly looking at Wang Ting. A good customer like him should be developed into a long-term client, especially considering his exceptional talent. Wang Ting agreed and exchanged contact information with Rugina. After finishing the transaction, he left. "Come back anytime, and if you need anything, just let me know," Wu Shen said. "Thanks, Senior," Wang Ting smiled faintly. Despite the senior's excessive enthusiasm, he seemed like a decent person. The two of them exchanged contacts. After exchanging contact information, Wang Teng and Wu Shen parted ways. As Wang Ting was about to board the spacecraft to leave, Round Ball opened a message. "Wang Teng, the Academy Arbitration Committee sent a message. Academy Arbitration Association." Wang Ting was briefly surprised, and as he quickly read the message, a somewhat ambiguous smile appeared on his face. "Did they notify me to participate in the Associate Council Member Promotion Assessment? Do they not know that I have already rejected this Associate Council Member position? Or are they assuming I'll go?" Chapter 2203, President, you have to help me. 1. Are you going? Round Ball asked curiously. It knew Wang Ting's temperament, and he was not someone to be bullied. The Academy Arbitration Association's actions clearly indicated they did not take his wishes seriously. The meaning was clear. Based on the Academy's request, they granted him the status of an Associate Council member, whether he liked it or not. This attitude revealed the somewhat overbearing nature of the Academy Arbitration Association. Perhaps over the years, no one had dared to challenge their authority, leading them to assume it was their rightful position. Unfortunately, Wang Ting was not one to cooperate with others or play along. Well, unless the person was his friend. If his friends wanted to show off their power, he didn't mind cooperating with them. If he cooperated now, they would cooperate with him later. However, for unfriendly individuals, the rule was simple. They should stay as far away from him as possible. For Wang Teng, joining the Academy Arbitration Association was an option, not a necessity. After thinking about it, he made a decision. Sure, why not? Wang Teng's eyes twinkled as he smiled. Joining the Academy Arbitration Association is necessary. I'm interested in the Stellar Arbitration Council. Joining the Academy Arbitration Association is a prerequisite for entering the Stellar Arbitration Council. I want to deal with the Parker's family, and to do that, I must become a formidable force in the universe. Though that's the case, last time, didn't you say you didn't want to go? Why the change of heart? Round Ball asked curiously. Look at this message. They notified me to participate in the Associate Council Member Promotion Assessment. It seems they have two purposes, Wang Teng replied with a smile. What's the purpose? Round Ball frowned. Isn't it just to make you participate in the assessment? Look at your simple mind. Aren't you an intelligent life form? Wang Ting said disdainfully. Round Ball felt a bit speechless. This guy criticized it at every turn. It had dignity too. What's more, as an intelligent life form, it was more useful in the virtual world. Understanding the complexities of the human mind was not its strong suit. There was simply no basis for comparison. After casually teasing Round Ball, Wang Teng explained, if my guess is correct, one purpose is to attract me and make me willingly accept the status of an associate council member. The other purpose is to show authority and let me know that becoming a counselor is not that easy. Yeah, why did I forget about that? Except for you, the other associate council members should be martial warriors above the heaven stage. The difficulty of this assessment is not low, and they must think you can't pass it. Round Ball suddenly realized and exclaimed. That's right. They assume I won't pass this assessment, Wang Ting said with a glint in his eyes. He chuckled and continued, so, one can't let them have their way. However, one won't participate in the assessment. Instead, I'll go directly to demand the position of counselor. I want this counselor position. How do you plan to do it? Round Ball looked at him with curiosity, wondering what his confident plan was. Help me contact the president, Wang Ting said without elaborating. The president and others had left their contact information before, allowing Wang Ting to reach out to them at any time. Round Ball was puzzled about what Wang Ting was going to do. With a dubious expression, it contacted the president. Soon, the screen lit up, and the figure of the president emerged. At the moment, he was in a field full of peculiar spirit flowers and plants. The president held a small piece of soil in his hand and casually scattered it across the field. He had a smile on his face, humming an ancient tune. It was obvious that he was dealing with the 5-colored soil he won from the God-stage fire element martial warrior. His mood was excellent. Seeing Wang Teng, he became even more amiable. What a good kid. While handling his affairs, he asked with a smile, Little one, what brings you to me so quickly? President, you have to help me out. Wang Teng shouted as soon as he saw the president. Round Ball was a bit stunned. He had just shown a confident demeanor, but now, he could look so distressed. He changed his expression so quickly. The president looked at him, feeling a bit puzzled at this moment. He asked in surprise, what happened? President, someone bullied me, Wang Teng said. Who can bully you? The president asked, a bit incredulous. He knew this guy's strength very well. Ordinary people couldn't bully him at all. Moreover, looking at his appearance now, there was no sign of being bullied. The Academy Arbitration Association. Wang Teng replied. What's going on? Tell me. The president seemed to think of something. He furrowed his brows as he asked. The Academy Arbitration Association has gone too far. Wang Teng exaggerated the situation, pitifully telling the story. President, you must be aware of the difficulty of the assessment. I'm just a freshman, a mere Cosmos stage warrior. How could one possibly pass? Aren't they just bullying people? The president's frown deepened. The Academy Arbitration Association did seem to have gone too far. It was no wonder this kid came to him to complain. But then, his expression became a bit strange. A freshman? A mere Cosmos stage martial warrior? How many Cosmos stage warriors are as monstrous as you? If this little guy really participates in the assessment, he might pass it. President, I've made contributions to our stellar academy. I've worked hard, even if one don't have merits, one have my hardships. One absolutely won't endure this humiliation. Wang Ting sneaked a glance at the president as he continued to plead. Chapter 2204 President, you have to help me. 2. All right. I know about this, and I'll make sure you get justice, the president said, smiling and shaking his head. He was certain that this little guy was completely pretending, but being genuinely aggrieved was also true. Wang Ting's contributions to the academy were enough to warrant a counselor position. This was just the Academy Arbitration Association, not the Stellar Arbitration Council. If it were the latter, everything would be different. Now, with Wang Ting being suppressed like this, It was evident that there was something fishy within the Academy Arbitration Association. Really? Wang Ting's eyes lit up, immediately asking. Why will I deceive you? Just wait for the message, the president said. Haha, President, you're indeed wise and powerful, able to distinguish what's right and wrong. Wang Ting grinned. All right, that's enough. You little rascal. The president chuckled, waving his hand, and the holographic screen disappeared. Done. Wang Ting comfortably sat in the spacecraft seat, crossing his legs. Round Ball was stunned, not yet recovering from the series of actions Wang Ting had just taken. This was too shameless. Wang Ting's shamelessness once again refreshed its understanding. How could he cry to others without any pressure? Where's his dignity? Where's his dignity? Why, do you think this method is not good? Wang Ting glanced at it and asked. Well, it's fine, Round Ball said. Then it's settled, Wang Ting smiled. Now, I just need to wait for the message. Wang Ting returned to his estate on the spacecraft and immediately entered the cultivation chamber to resume his training. Meanwhile, news about the Arbitration Association's assessment for Associate Council members spread among the martial warriors. The Arbitration Association had always been a particularly special entity within the Academy, drawing attention with every move it made. What's more, this was regarding the promotion of Associate Council members. The birth of each councillor would result in a power shift, signifying the emergence of a new influential group. It also implies a change in authority, leading to many martial warriors voluntarily attaching themselves to councillors. This was because becoming a senator within the Arbitration Association opened the gateway to the Stellar Arbitration Council. It was an opportunity to join this prestigious organization. Simultaneously, the list of candidates eligible for the councillor promotion assessment was revealed, and many were astonished by one particular name. Wang Ting. A name that surprised many appeared on the list. People found it inconceivable because, after all, he was still a freshman. How could he become an associate council member? The promotion of the associate council member has started. Wang Ting's name is among them. After some time, Yu Chichiao and the others heard the news and wanted to contact Wang Ting. They knew half a year ago that the Academy Arbitration Association had granted Wang Ting the status of an associate council member. In other words, as long as he acknowledged this identity, he would be qualified to participate in the associate council member's promotion assessment. But back then, Wang Ting refused. He didn't even go to report. Now, would he go? People like Yu Chichiao still hoped that Wang Ting would go because once he became a councillor, those who followed him would also receive significant benefits. Even if it was just acknowledging the identity of an associate council member, it was fine. After all, they were fighting for the future, not the present. The main members of the Constellation Society gathered to discuss this matter. Wang Ting is an associate council member of the Academy Arbitration Association. Baichuan Liu, Tai Beisho, and the others looked at Yu Chichiao in astonishment. Although many insiders knew that Wang Ting had received the notice of appointment as an associate council member from the Academy Arbitration Association 6 months ago, those were people with connections within the Academy Arbitration Association. Baichuan Liu, Tai Beisho, and others didn't know about it, so they were still unaware of this matter. Yes, Yu Chichiao nodded. Many people knew about this, so there was no need to hide it. Moreover, since it involved Wang Ting, she guessed that it wasn't that simple, which was why she contacted everyone to discuss it together. Why did he refuse? Tai Beisho wondered. Yu Chichiao briefly explained the cause and effect of the matter. If it were me, even if I experienced some unfair treatment, I'm afraid I would accept it. After all, this is the status of an associate council member. Although it may not be possible to be promoted now, once I reach the heaven stage, there is a good chance of becoming a councillor. Wu Yang smiled bitterly. Wang Ting is different from us. Reynolds shook his head. People are different, and it's exasperating, Baichuan Liu said indifferently. Shall we ask him directly? Yu Chichiao asked. It's better to ask him directly. Others can't decide for him in this matter, Yu Yunxian spoke up. You're right. Yu Chichiao sighed. She turned on her wristwatch and contacted Wang Ting. The communication was promptly established, and Wang Ting appeared on the screen, smiling. Is it about the Arbitration Association? It seems you already know, Yu Qiqiao said. I obtained the message a long time ago. You don't need to worry about this. I've already resolved it, and there will be news soon. It's already resolved. Yu Qiqiao and the others were stunned. They were still worrying about it, and Wang Ting had already solved it. This was quite fast. Yes, there should be results in a few days, Wang Ting said. How did you resolve it? Yu Qiqiao asked. Cough. Confidential. Confidential. Wang Ting cleared his throat and said, Why are you being so secretive? Yu Qiqiao was speechless. Then she asked, Can you still join the Arbitration Association? Yes. Wang Ting nodded. And not just an associate council member. Yu Qiqiao and the others instantly showed surprise on their faces. If he wasn't an associate council member, he couldn't be an ordinary Arbitration Association member. There was only one possibility, counselor. They widened their gaze in disbelief. Would he become a counselor? As everyone knew, becoming a counselor in the Academy Arbitration Association was extremely difficult. It required multiple selections and assessments, with a significant number of candidates failing to pass. Otherwise, the Academy Arbitration Association wouldn't have used this to block Wang Ting's promotion. Now Wang Ting casually told them that he was about to enter the Academy Arbitration Association, and there was a high possibility of becoming a counselor. Who could believe that? You're going to become a counselor? Wu Yang asked. You should understand in a few days. Wang Ting didn't directly answer. Wu Yang and the others gritted their teeth. Why are you leaving someone hanging? Couldn't he satisfy their curiosity? Wang Ting didn't say much more. He exchanged a few words with them and then ended the communication, leaving Yu Qiqiao and the others bewildered. They smiled bitterly. This guy is infuriating. Yu Qiqiao stated helplessly. He, speaking of it, if the boss becomes a counselor in the Academy Arbitration Association, we can do whatever we want in the academy. Wade suddenly sniggered. Come on, even if he becomes a counselor, there will be many constraints, and even more people will be watching him. There's no room for the slightest mistake, Yu Qiqiao retorted with an eye roll. I was just talking. Wade scratched his head awkwardly. But it's indeed a good thing, Yu Qiqiao smiled again and said, if he can become a counselor, we can get a lot of conveniences. How did he manage to become a counselor so quickly? Wu Yang questioned somewhat enviously. Who knows? Yu Qiqiao shrugged. Don't envy him. There's only one Wang Ting in the 7 stellar academies for so many years. You can't envy that. Reynolds patted him on the shoulder and laughed. I'm not envious, Wu Yang stated with a slight pout, but it was evident that he was not sincere. Everyone teased him. In fact, when it came to envy, they were not exempt. Wang Ting actually made it to the assessment list. Feng Qingyin's expression changed slightly when he heard this news. The reason he dared to act recklessly against Wang Ting initially was because he believed that Wang Ting had been blacklisted by the Academy Arbitration Association and wasn't favored by the 7 judges. But now, seeing Wang Ting appear on the assessment list again, it meant that Wang Ting's associate council member was unchangeable. Even the 7 judges had to admit that Wang Ting was an associate council member. He couldn't accept this. Back then, he didn't enter the Academy Arbitration Association because he didn't like relying on others, and he eventually founded the Qingyang Society. Wang Ting founded the Constellation Society himself and made it prominent. Now, he was about to join the Academy Arbitration Association and become an associate council member. The comparison made him, who was at the peak of the universe stage, a little jealous of Wang Ting. Chapter 2205. What do you want to do to Counselor Wang Ting? 1. In the vast cosmos, with billions of trillions of stars. Here, the existence of any peculiar celestial body was possible. Even eternal stage martial warriors might not know about it. In the vast expanse of the universe, in a remote corner, a silver-white star quietly floats in the void. There are no other stars around, only endless cosmic dust drifting. This planet hovers alone, radiating light like a lone ranger in the universe. There was no sign of life on this planet, only some peculiar metals emitting a silver-white glow. The radiance comes from these exotic metals. If a powerful being were present, they would notice that these peculiar metals emit a special fluctuation as if it were a very unique energy. What no one knew was that within the stellar core of this planet, a figure with silver-white long hair sits quietly in a cross-legged position, absorbing the peculiar energy from the planet. This person emitted a faint fluorescence, making his facial features indiscernible. Upon closer observation, one would notice several acupoints on his body emitting dazzling light, and it was through these acupoints that the peculiar energy entered his body. At a certain moment, the person slowly opened his eyes. The indifferent gaze resembled two celestial bodies, making it impossible for others to look directly at him. He lowered his head to look at the wristwatch in his hand, where a message was displayed. Boom! After reading the message, a terrifying aura suddenly erupted from within him, causing the dense energy in the stellar core to ripple. The entire planet trembled as if it was on the verge of collapse. After a moment, he sent out a message. His expression remained unchanged as he slowly closed his eyes, seemingly indifferent to external matters. It was as if nothing could disturb his cultivation. The planet, situated in the depths of the cosmic void, returned to a silent state as though the previous disturbance had never occurred. 3 days later, Wang Teng, who was cultivating in the estate, opened his eyes and looked at the wristwatch in his hand. Round Ball's figure appeared beside him, shocked. Wang Teng, the Academy Arbitration Association has officially appointed you as a counselor. As expected of the president. Even the Academy Arbitration Association has to yield. Wang Teng smiled. That's for sure. No matter how powerful the Academy Arbitration Association is, it can't compare to the president, Round Ball said. However, you're the only one who can get the president to speak up for you personally. HMPH, Wang Teng snorted lightly. It's just that the Academy Arbitration Association doesn't know what's good for them. With my contributions, they should understand how to handle it without the president's intervention. It seems that someone doesn't want you to enter the core of the Academy Arbitration Association so quickly, Round Ball nodded, saying. Whoever it is, it's just futile, Wang Teng said with a cold smile. The Academy Arbitration Association asked you to go over for the handover procedures, Round Ball said. Fine, since I'm already a counselor, I'll reluctantly go take a look. Wang Teng stood up, stretched lazily, and said casually. Look at how proud you are. Even a universe-stage martial warrior would run over obediently if he knew that he had become a counselor of the Academy Arbitration Association. Yet you're acting so indifferent, Round Ball said with a speechless expression. It's not being indifferent, but I simply don't value this counselor status much. It's just a stepping stone, Wang Teng said calmly. Round Ball didn't know what to say. Was there anything more pretentious than this? What an actor. Wang Teng arrived outside the estate, retrieved his spacecraft, and headed straight to the Academy Arbitration Association. The Academy Arbitration Association. For many students, this place represented the authority of the younger generation, and it was also a place that many aspired to. Members of the Academy Arbitration Association with the emblem badge on their chests walked in and out of the central building, carrying a faint sense of arrogance. Their gaze toward ordinary students carried a lofty demeanor. At this moment, a menacing black spacecraft swiftly approached from a distance and finally hovered above the Academy Arbitration Association building. Who is this? How dare they hover their spacecraft over the Academy Arbitration Association? Doesn't this person know that only members of the Academy Arbitration Association, ranked counselor and above, can directly fly a spacecraft into this place? Has done for. The Academy Arbitration Association won't easily let anyone challenge its authority. The people below were astounded when they saw the spacecraft in the sky. Then, many of them started gloating. Under everyone's gaze, the cabin door of the spacecraft opened and a figure walked out. Wang Teng. That looks like Wang Teng. It's him. If it's him, there shouldn't be any problem. Has finished. The Academy Arbitration Association won't let off anyone who dares to challenge its authority, even if Hes an associate council member. Watch, Hes definitely in for trouble. Just an associate council member, not even a full counselor. No associate council member has ever dared to be so audacious. Moreover, Didn't he refuse to become an associate council member of the Academy Arbitration Association? Refuse. Who could reject the position of an associate council member in the Academy Arbitration Association? Wang Ting is already extremely lucky to be able to become an associate council member as a new student. How can he give up? Many people recognized Wang Ting's identity, and their expressions varied, accompanied by numerous discussions. 3 days ago, upon learning that Wang Ting had the status of an associate council member in the Academy Arbitration Association, many felt envy and jealousy. Chapter 2206. What do you want to do to Councillor Wang Ting? 2. So, when many people saw him appear and even violate the authority of the Academy Arbitration Association, there was a touch of mockery. They all halted their departure and prepared to watch the excitement. Wang Ting was too famous. For new students, he might have become a benchmark, an admired figure, but for the senior students, it was a different story. Many senior students harbored a kind of hostility toward this excessively outstanding freshman, especially after he became an associate council member of the Arbitration Association. This touched upon the interests of the senior students. All the seniors were once freshmen. Like other freshmen, they had been suppressed and yielded to the tyranny of the senior students. However, Wang Ting took an unconventional path, climbing directly to the top of these senior students. Although Wang Ting did not intentionally do this, his actions had already subtly taken on this trend. How dare you! Suddenly, a cold shout echoed from within the Academy Arbitration Association. Several figures appeared abruptly in the sky, standing not far from Wang Ting. Wang Ting furrowed his brow and looked at the figures that had appeared before him. They were all Heaven Stage martial warriors, and the aura emanating from them was formidable. These were not ordinary Heaven Stage martial warriors. His gaze swept over them, eventually fixing on the leader, a young man with reddish-brown hair. Wang Ting squinted slightly. So, you're the 86th senior. I wonder why you're blocking my way. Wang Ting appeared somewhat enlightened and asked, any particular reason, senior? Occam, hearing Wang Ting call him the 86th senior, instantly felt insulted. He felt speechless and his face turned green. This bastard. The martial warriors behind him couldn't help but twitch their mouths, their gazes somewhat peculiar. They were well aware that Occam was ranked 86th on the top Lu Heaven Stage martial warrior ranking. But, what was with this 86th senior title? It turned what should have been an honor into something comical, thanks to Wang Ting's mockery. Wang Ting seemed to be quite sarcastic. Wang Ting, do you even know where you are? Occam said coldly. It's the Academy Arbitration Association. How can one not know about it? Wang Ting replied calmly. Since you know this is the Academy Arbitration Association, why did you hover your spacecraft above the central building of the Academy Arbitration Association? Do you even respect the Academy Arbitration Association? Occam questioned loudly. Wang Ting tilted his head, showing a hint of disdain as he looked at Occam. So what? How dare you? Occam was infuriated. A cold glint flashed past his eyes as he shouted coldly, You're so disrespectful to the Arbitration Association. What right do you have to be the associate council member of the Arbitration Association? With a swift motion of his hand, he ordered. Take him down. I will ask the councillors to make the decision and cancel Wang Ting's associate council member status. As soon as his words fell, Occam was already reaching out to grab Wang Ting. Simultaneously, the others behind him vanished instantly from their original positions, rushing toward Wang Ting, sealing off his surroundings. As one of the top Lu Heaven Stage martial warriors, Occam's ability was naturally at the peak of the Heaven Stage. Normal Heaven Stage martial warriors couldn't be compared to him. His speed was unimaginably fast, and with a thunderous sound, he almost arrived instantaneously in front of Wang Ting. Fire force congregated on his hand as he clawed at Wang Ting's neck. Among all possible approaches, he chose the most humiliating one. He chose to directly subdue Wang Ting and suppress him. Moreover, it was all happening in front of so many people. He wanted to strip Wang Ting of all dignity. As the distance closed, a trace of disdain finally appeared on Occam's face. This Wang Ting was just a freshman. Even if he had exceptional talent, what qualifications did he have to contend with him? Today happened to be the day he would crush Wang Ting. Even heaven was helping him. Seeing this scene, some shook their heads, some reveled in the misfortune, while others were filled with sympathy. Had Wang Ting lost his mind? Otherwise, how could he make such a low-level mistake, allowing others to catch a handle? Phi would suffer a huge loss today. A figure flew out from the Academy Arbitration Association's building. His long silver-white hair was quite conspicuous. It was Yuan Mu. He came with Occam today to settle the matter of joining the Academy Arbitration Association. Based on his performance during the Grand Disciple Acceptance Ceremony, he had already qualified to join the Academy Arbitration Association as a member. However, he didn't expect to run into this situation. Occam was eager to subdue Wang Ting to give him a lesson, so he threw him aside. At this moment, Yuan Mu also followed them out. Seeing that Wang Ting was about to be subdued, a glint flashed in his eyes. His expression was indifferent. The dignity of the Academy Arbitration Association must not be violated. Although Occam was a bit excessive, this was a lesson that Wang Ting deserved, and there was no one else to blame. In the sky, a cold light flashed in Wang Ting's eyes. He sneered. Two different types of divine flames erupted from his body. The green flame and the crimson flame congregated into dragon scales on his body. Intense heat radiated in all directions. At the same time, a rumbling sound of surging blood flowed from his body like thunder. A mysterious golden pattern appeared on his forehead. Boom! At the next moment, he raised his fist and punched Occam. The void exploded, collapsing directly. Terrifying black cracks spread out in all directions. Occam's pupils suddenly contracted as if he had seen something unbelievable. However, at such a close distance, he couldn't retract his attack. Moreover, he didn't believe that Wang Ting, a Cosmos Stage martial warrior, could contend with a powerhouse like him listed on the top Lu Heaven Stage martial warrior ranking. In an instant, the two attacks collided. Boom! A terrifying explosion echoed in the air, causing many people to show shock on their faces. At this moment, a figure was sent flying. Occam! It was Occam! Everyone widened their eyes, looking at this scene in disbelief. How could Occam be the one sent flying? Yuan Mu's face also revealed a trace of astonishment and shock as if he had seen a ghost. Occam's face was full of shock. His arm was trembling uncontrollably. It seemed like the bones in his hand were broken. How could Wang Ting's strength be so formidable? Impossible. How could the strength of a Cosmos Stage martial warrior threaten him? Occam couldn't believe the result. What right do you have to take me down? Wang Ting put down his fist casually and looked at Occam in the distance. Occam's face alternated between pale and red. What could be more humiliating than this? Previously, it was only verbal humiliation, but now Wang Ting used strength to humiliate him. He gave him the illusion that he was facing a top 10 powerhouse on the top Lu Heaven Stage martial warrior ranking. Gasp! The people below finally reacted, and a buzz of discussion erupted. No one could have expected this outcome. A Heaven Stage powerhouse was sent flying by a Cosmos Stage martial warrior, and it seemed he had taken quite a beating. Could these two be cooperating to stage a dramatic scene to boost Wang Teng's reputation? Many people couldn't help but think so in their hearts. Capture him! Occam, now ignoring his dignity, immediately shouted to the several Heaven Stage martial warriors surrounding them. Originally, those Heaven Stage martial warriors only planned to block the surroundings and didn't intend to take action. They believed Occam alone would be enough to handle Wang Ting. However, the reality was different. Occam had been sent flying. This stunned them momentarily, but upon hearing Occam's voice, they snapped back to attention and rushed toward Wang Ting. Stop! At this moment, a commanding shout echoed from the interior of the Academy Arbitration Association Hall, and a figure burst out. The Heaven Stage martial warriors instinctively halted their movements and looked at the person. Counselor Wu De. Occam's expression changed slightly. He heard that Counselor Wu De seemed to hold Wang Ting in high regard and helped him quite a bit in the past. Counselor Wu De, Wang Ting has violated the authority of the Academy Arbitration Association. Are you still going to protect him? Occam preemptively spoke out loudly. Councillor Wu De looked at him indifferently and said with a faint smile, "Could you please repeat that? What do you want to do to Councillor Wang Ting?" "I didn't hear you clearly." Occam swallowed hard, looking utterly confused, and said, "What? What are you talking about?" Chapter 2207, Occam's Struggle. Councillor Wang Ting. As Wu De's words spread, not only was Occam stunned, but others also froze. They wore expressions of astonishment. The Heaven Stage martial warriors who initially intended to take action against Wang Ting were now caught in a dilemma. They couldn't proceed with their actions, nor could they retreat. Glancing between Occam and Wu De, their gazes eventually settled on Wang Ting, displaying extreme awkwardness. They were profoundly shocked. What did Councillor Wu De just call him? A councillor? Seriously? A freshman becoming a councillor? Could anything be more absurd? From a distance, Yuan Mu's eyes widened slightly, and his pupils involuntarily contracted. Councillor. Wang Ting became a councillor. He just aimed to become an ordinary member of the Academy Arbitration Association, but Wang Ting had already become a councillor. The gap between them seemed to have widened unconsciously. He clenched his fists tightly. His heart pounded furiously and he couldn't calm down. Councillor. After a moment of silence, a thunderous exclamation erupted from the crowd below. Their gazes were filled with disbelief as they looked at the young figure in the sky, their expressions full of shock. The sudden appearance of a freshly appointed councillor left everyone somewhat incredulous. Wang Ting was a little surprised. This senior brother Wu De was a councillor and he came out to help him. Interesting. No, something's not right. Occam's expression changed slightly, his face darkened as he said, "Wang Ting is just an associate council member who hasn't undergone the assessment. How could he become a councillor? You must be fooling me." Everyone was stunned. They were puzzled. Indeed, Wang Ting had not undergone the assessment. How could he become a councillor? Initially, they chose to believe it subconsciously because it came from Councillor Wu De's mouth. But now, prompted by Occam's words, they felt that something seemed amiss. If becoming a councillor was that easy, everyone would be a councillor by now. Wu De snorted uncontrollably. "Councillor Wu De, why are you laughing? If you can't provide an explanation for this matter, even if you're a councillor, you might not be able to protect him," Occam said with a slightly darkened expression. "I don't need to protect anyone." Wu De glanced at him and calmly said, "The notice appointing Wang Ting as a councillor has already been issued, and any councillor is aware of it. You don't have the qualifications to know about it." Occam's face turned green. He didn't have the qualifications to know. He was looking down on him. However, he was unable to retort. He was just an associate council member while Wu De was a genuine councillor. His status was much higher than his. At the same time, tumultuous waves surged within him. Did Wang Ting really become a councillor? The crowd below, upon hearing Wu De's words, once again turned their gaze towards Wang Ting, their expressions incredibly complex. They had no choice but to believe Wu De. He said that all the councillors knew about this matter. There was little room for doubt. Such lies were easily exposed. So, what Councillor Wu De said had to be true. Occam was still unwilling to believe. He immediately sent a message through his wristwatch. "It seems you still don't believe it. Let me give you another chance to struggle." Wu De shook his head, crossed his arms, and looked at Occam mockingly, seemingly indifferent to his attempt to confirm the information. 86th Senior, don't be in a hurry. Take your time to confirm. One can wait. Wang Ting's lips curled into a faint sneer as he said calmly. Seeing their resolute expressions, Occam's sense of foreboding grew stronger. At this moment, he felt like he was pushed to the edge of a cliff, with no room for retreat. Standing in place, he became increasingly restless. The gaze of those around him was like a weight, making him extremely uncomfortable. He no longer cared about what Wang Ting called him. If Wang Ting had become a councillor, his troubles would be significant. Yuan Mu sighed. The truth was already certain. If Occam persisted, he would only bring humiliation upon himself. He looked at Wang Ting, a hint of unwillingness in his eyes. Why was this person so much more outstanding than him, despite both being freshmen? Was there such a monster in the world? Even his brother wouldn't be able to reach this stage at his age. No, this Wang Ting was just luckier. How could he compare to his brother? After some time, Occam received a message on his wristwatch. He hurriedly lowered his head to take a look and his expression froze. 86th Senior, what's the result? Is it what you expect? Are you surprised? Wang Teng asked with a smile. Occam. Surprised? At this moment, the information he received from a certain counselor undoubtedly came as a great shock, leaving him devoid of any chance to struggle. In an instant, he felt as if he had been plunged into an abyss. His entire body turned cold. Wu De's facial muscles twitched for a moment. He wanted to laugh but had to forcefully hold back. Wang Teng was truly as cheeky as ever. Let's go. Occam feigned composure, coldly snorted, and turned around to lead his people away. Wang Ting's figure suddenly flashed, blocking Occam's path. He calmly said, "Did I say you could leave? What do you want?" Occam's eye corner twitched uncontrollably. He glared at Wang Ting warily. "What do one want? Don't you find it ridiculous that you're asking me that?" Wang Ting replied. Wu De stood on the side, watching this scene with a smile, showing no intention of intervening. After Wang Teng's identity was exposed, Occam and the others couldn't afford to provoke him anymore. If they dared to make a move again, it would only worsen their situation. This time, he stepped in to ease the tension between him and Wang Teng. Earlier, when he learned that Wang Ting had refused the identity of an associate council member and that the Constellation Society was attacked by the Qingyang Society, he didn't lend a helping hand. It had already strained their relationship. Now that he learned Wang Ting had become a counselor, no matter what, he had to mend their relationship. Wang Teng, Senior Occam didn't know your identity before, leading to this misunderstanding. Why do you have to be so aggressive, clinging stubbornly to this matter? Yuan Mu walked over from a distance, coming to Occam's aid. Wu De, upon seeing Yuan Mu's silvery white long hair from afar, squinted. Isn't this the second one? Wang Ting looked at Yuan Mu, expressing surprise. Everyone he defeated seemed to be referred to as the second. Yuan Mu. The second one? Wood looked at Wang Ting in astonishment. It took guts to call that person's younger brother the second. Wang Teng was incredibly bold. Or was he unaware of Yuan Mu's identity? Considering the latter possibility, Wu De immediately sent a message through a voice transmission. Wang Teng, Yuan Mu's identity is not simple. He is the younger brother of a judge. Indeed, has a judge's younger brother. Wang Teng's gaze flickered. He had suspected it before, and now he received confirmation from Wu De. However, so what if he was the younger brother of a judge? He didn't even give the judges any face, let alone his brother. You were watching the show from the sidelines and now, you want to intervene? Wang Ting looked at Yuan Mu and asked. Yuan Mu's expression changed slightly. Wang Ting clearly wasn't giving him any face. Didn't he know his identity? If it were someone else, even a counselor, they would probably show some respect if they knew his identity. If there's nothing else, please step aside. Unless, Wang Ting paused, a hint of coldness appearing on his face. He continued in a calm tone, you want to be my enemy? You. Yuan Mu's pupils contracted. This guy was threatening him. Wood, on the sidelines, was at a loss for words. Even after learning Yuan Mu's identity, Wang Ting still confronted him in such a manner, clearly showing no regard for Yuan Mu's elder brother. Wu De couldn't help but feel speechless. How audacious was this guy? He dared to disregard even a judge. If it were him, he definitely wouldn't dare to offend a judge. Yuan Mu, this matter has nothing to do with you. Occam stepped forward, looking at Wang Ting with a cold smile. Indeed, I misunderstood first, but you didn't reveal your identity, so you can't blame others. If you want to use this to accuse me, then you should check if other counselors agree. At this moment, Occam felt a bit more confident. He suddenly realized that, even though Wang Ting had become a counselor, his status was quite awkward. Firstly, Wang Teng's strength wasn't enough to win everyone's respect. Secondly, From the communication with the counselor earlier, Occam learned that Wang Ting's appointment as a counselor wasn't well received. From the judges to other counselors, not many sincerely hoped for Wang Ting to join the Academy Arbitration Association. Of course, there might be some counselors who would support Wang Ting, like the current counselor Wu De. However, Occam was confident that the majority of counselors would stand against Wang Ting. After all, Wang Ting's existence was too unconventional. A freshman becoming a senator was an insult to all counselors. Those counselors had struggled through hardships, competing with numerous geniuses, and finally passed the assessment to become counselors. In contrast, Wang Ting went from an ordinary student to a regular member of the Arbitration Association, then to an associate council member, and finally became a counselor. It was too easy. His promotion path turned the efforts of other counselors into a joke. Senior Wu De, may I inquire about the Academy Arbitration Association's procedures when an associate council member inexplicably attacks a counselor? Wang Ting ignored Occam and turned to Wu De, posing the question. Well, Wu De couldn't help but furrow his brow. What Occam had thought of, he had naturally considered as well. Although Wang Ting had become a counselor, his situation didn't seem favorable. In such circumstances, persisting in confronting Occam was not a wise choice. However, when he saw the calm expression on Wang Ting's face, he realized that the latter had no intention of letting it go. Having known Wang Ting for a considerable time, Wu De understood that this junior was not someone who would remain silent after being mistreated. When Feng Qingyang of the Qingyang Society bullied him, Wang Ting had fiercely fought back. It was no different with Occam. Physically assaulting a counselor gives the counselor the right to subdue the aggressor and revoke their associate council member status. Wu De glanced at Occam, sighed inwardly, and responded. Very well. I'm reassured by your words. Wang Ting smiled and nodded. You. Occam's pupils suddenly contracted. In the next moment, although a smile lingered on Wang Ting's face, and his gaze turned completely cold, he surged forward, heading straight for Occam. Boom. Chapter 2208, Ruthless and Domineering. 1. Boom. A terrifying fist imprint erupted from Wang Ting's fist, flames coalesced and emanated scorching heat. Wu De was astonished, completely caught off guard by Wang Ting's swift and ruthless response. He decided to strike without any hesitation. Also, where did he get his confidence to attack a Heaven Stage martial warrior on the top 100 Heaven Stage martial warrior ranking? Occam, equally surprised, reacted swiftly retreating with a hint of a cold smile on his face. I did underestimate you in our previous encounter, but do you think your Cosmos Stage strength can contend with me? It's laughable. A crisp sound echoed as his arm produced a cracking noise, and the previously shattered arm bones instantly healed. He then slammed his palm forcefully towards Wang Ting's fist imprint. The crimson force flames condensed into a palm imprint, unmatched in power, emanating a peculiar fluctuation, the power of the domain. Oh, really? Wang Ting sneered coldly, unleashing the power of his physique into the fist imprint. Sixth realm power. It was an incredibly formidable force. Wang Ting's master hadn't explicitly told him the extent of the realm power's strength, but he could sense the terrifying nature of this power. Even Heaven Stage martial warriors might not be able to wield such a potent force. Furthermore, Wang Ting was currently using the power of his domain, the 6th rank flame domain. Without holding back, he directly merged it into the fist imprint, pushing his strength toward the 7th realm power. Boom! In the next instant, the collision of their attacks resonated with a dreadful thunderous sound. The void trembled, revealing rifts in space, and the force imbued with scorching intent surged outwards, causing the expressions of many to subtly change. This temperature. Occam's expression changed. Only now did he realize that the temperature of Wang Ting's flaming fist imprint was unusually high. It wasn't ordinary fire. Divine flame. His gaze fell upon the two types of flames entwined around Wang Ting, quickly deducing what kind of flames they were. Only divine flames possessed such terrifying temperatures. Moreover, Wang Ting harbored two types of divine flames, which was simply inconceivable. Before he could think more, a formidable force swept over him, and his palm imprint instantly crumbled. Splat! Occam was shocked as a mouthful of blood sprayed from his mouth, and his body uncontrollably flew backward. How is this possible? How can your strength be so formidable? He halted his retreat, staring at Wang Ting in disbelief, exclaiming in shock. Number 86 on the top 100 Heaven Stage Martial Warrior ranking? Is that it? Wang Ting twisted his fist and looked at his opponent calmly. Wu De's face was filled with astonishment. How could Wang Ting's strength be so formidable? He saw Wang Ting and Occam's exchange of blows. Initially, he thought Occam was being careless, but now it seemed otherwise. Wang Ting's strength truly surpassed expectations. Come on, let's continue. Wang Ting shouted and charged forward once again. You're just a Cosmos Stage martial warrior. I don't believe that you can defeat me. Occam, infuriated and embarrassed, roared and charged at Wang Ting. Boom! 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 The two clashed in the sky, exchanging attacks that resonated with the power of their domains. Terrifying forces were unleashed. 6th rank domain. Wu De looked up at Wang Ting in the sky, his eyes revealing a hint of astonishment. It was truly inconceivable for a Cosmos Stage martial warrior to possess a 6th rank domain. Yuan Mu's expression also changed. Wang Teng's strength had become even more formidable than when he fought him on the freshman leaderboard. What had he experienced after reaching the summit of the spiritual Hollow Mountain? Many speculated about the opportunities Wang Teng might have gained after reaching the summit of the spiritual Hollow Mountain. But no one could guess accurately. Yuan Mu asked his brother, but even his brother didn't know. At this moment, everyone was focused on the ongoing battle. They were all shocked, never expecting that a Cosmos Stage martial warrior like Wang Ting could directly confront Occam, who was listed on the top 100 Heaven Stage martial warrior ranking. At the same time, they were curious. Could Wang Ting win Occam? If Wang Ting won, wouldn't he be able to directly replace Occam and become the 86th on the top 100 Heaven Stage martial warrior ranking? But the issue was, Wang Ting was only a Cosmos Stage martial warrior. A Cosmos Stage martial warrior entering the top 100 Heaven Stage martial warrior ranking was akin to a husky infiltrating a pack of wolves. Boom! In the sky, the intensity of the battle escalated. Occam's realm had reached the 8th level of the Heaven Stage, so his force was unquestionably more profound than Wang Teng's. He sneered at Wang Teng, his gaze fixed on him. To take me down, your strength is still insufficient. Let's see how long you can last with your Cosmos Stage force. As his words fell, he appeared above Wang Ting, bringing down a palm with a terrifying flame imprint that seemed to blot out the sky and crush Wang Ting. This palm contained the power of an 8th rank domain. Occam's strength was indeed formidable. He mastered the 8th rank domain and could seamlessly integrate it into his combat techniques, unleashing terrifying power. At the same time, there was a trace of the power of origin. This was the power of the origin of flame, which had reached the 2nd rank. Boom! Explosions resounded in the sky. Many people's expressions changed slightly when they saw this scene. Even the Heaven Stage martial warriors didn't dare to say that they could withstand this attack. Chapter 2209, Ruthless and Domineering. 2. The moment he learned that Wang Ting had become a counselor, he wanted to pull him over. After all, they had interacted before. No one was more suitable than him for this task. Moreover, since he had already taken action, there was no reason to be overly cautious. Otherwise, their relationship would be completely severed today. Wang Ting, you're about to lose. Yuan Mu's eyes gleamed with determination as he murmured to himself. For some reason, seeing this outcome, he couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. It was only logical for Wang Ting to lose. Winning would make him too much of an anomaly. The people below shook their heads when they saw this scene. Some sighed, while others sneered, thinking that Wang Ting was overestimating himself and would ultimately face defeat. He was too arrogant. As a counselor, having weak strength was a significant loss of face. Right after becoming a counselor, losing so disgracefully would undoubtedly become a joke, making it difficult for him to command respect in the future. Unaware of the opinions below, Wang Teng's gaze turned sharp as he looked up. This palm strike was indeed powerful. He was well aware that, even with the combination of all his attributes and force, there was still a gap when facing an 8th-level Heaven Stage martial warrior. Moreover, this individual was ranked among the top 100 Heaven Stage martial warriors, possessing strength that couldn't be underestimated. He remained utterly vigilant, fusing all the force within him into chaos force. Simultaneously, all the special flames, except for the dark flame, surged out from within him. They condensed on his surface, forming peculiar dragon scales. These flames were all covered by the emerald-glazed flame and the soul of Thousand Beasts flame, making it challenging for outsiders to perceive. In an instant, Wang Ting's true dragon battle physique, fake, became stronger. A terrifying power flowed through his body. 7th realm power. In a moment, Wang Teng's strength reached the 7th realm power. He received the 5th rank solar dragon physique from Zhulong Shan, which allowed the true dragon battle physique, fake, to reach the 5th rank too. Its power increased tremendously. Otherwise, he might not have been able to achieve the 7th realm power. Wang Teng threw another punch, condensing all his force into a fist imprint. This time, it wasn't a flame fist imprint, but a complete version of the 5-element fist: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. The 5-colored fist imprints merged. At the same time, the power of the 5-element domain merged into the fist imprint and exploded instantly. With the augmentation of the domain power, the power of this punch approached the 8th realm power. Simultaneously, Wang Teng merged the power of origin of the 5 elements into his body. His power of origin had reached the 2nd rank, not weaker than Occam's. Moreover, compared to Occam's monotype origin of power, all 5 of his origin forces had reached the 2nd rank. As the power of laws of origin fused, the power of the fist imprint escalated steadily, reaching the 9th realm power directly. It continued to rise until it reached the mid-9th realm power before finally halting. Wang Teng's eyes gleamed brightly as he delivered a fierce punch. Boom! The formidable power surged out with the fist imprint, impacting Occam's palm imprint directly, colliding with it head-on. A resounding roar echoed, and the force shockwaves rolled out in all directions. For a moment, it felt as if the entire world had frozen. The fist imprint and the palm imprint were locked in a stalemate as if neither could overcome the other. The onlookers stared at this scene, holding their breath without blinking. At a certain moment, a series of cracking sounds suddenly rang out. Upon the palm imprint, cracks radiated, with the fist imprint as the epicenter, spreading in all directions like a spider web. Occam's face drastically changed. His eyes trembled intensely with disbelief. In the next moment, the palm imprint, under his astonished gaze, abruptly shattered with a thunderous explosion. The force surged backward, and the momentum of the fist imprint remained undiminished, brutally striking Occam's body as he had no time to retreat. Bang! As he was positioned above at that moment, the punch directly sent him flying upwards. Occam, as if struck by lightning, turned pale. Blood kept spurting out of his mouth, and the sound of bones breaking could be heard from his body. Wang Ting's punch had inflicted severe injuries upon him. Wang Ting, won? Wu De was astonished. He was planning to intervene but found himself lowering his outstretched hand. It seemed unnecessary now. Yuan Mu's expression stiffened, shaken by the fact that Wang Ting had won. How could his strength be so formidable? He knew Occam's strength very well. Even he would find it challenging to defeat him, but Wang Ting had somehow achieved it. This guy was just too extraordinary. At this moment, a stronger sense of frustration welled up within him. After the Grand Disciple Acceptance Ceremony, under the guidance of his teacher, he rebuilt his confidence and was ready to pursue Wang Teng again. He aimed to defeat him one day and reclaim his pride. However, before he could make a move, it seemed that Wang Ting had already moved even further away. How could he catch up now? This unexpected blow caught him off guard, leaving him deeply wounded. The onlookers below were equally shocked. Occam had been defeated by Wang Ting, which was truly unbelievable. I won't lose. Occam was filled with unwillingness. As a Heaven Stage martial warrior on the top 100 Heaven Stage martial warrior ranking, losing to a Cosmos Stage martial warrior was a tremendous humiliation he couldn't bear. Today, He had become the greatest loser. Many witnessed this, and soon the news would spread, making him the laughingstock of the entire stellar academies. No. You lost. Wang Teng appeared at his side with a flicker and said calmly. You. Occam's pupils contracted. Is being on the top 100 heaven stage martial warrior ranking that remarkable? Wang Ting gazed at him, his eyes filled with indifference. A purple brick appeared in his hand. What are you going to do? Occam suddenly had a foreboding sense of danger. He wanted to break free from Wang Teng, but his bones were shattered, and he couldn't move. His body continued flying backward uncontrollably. You're so arrogant that I can't resist the urge to give you a taste of humility. Wang Teng grinned, and the lightning slap smashed down. Bang! 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 Wang Teng's movements were like a residual image. The lightning slap drew arcs in his hand before it landed on Occam's face, which was filled with horror. One after another, large bumps swelled up at a visible speed, almost covering his entire face and head. Swoop! Boom! Cracking sounds were heard. Occam's face was burnt. Soon, a blackened pig head appeared in front of everyone. The crowd widened their eyes, looking at this scene in disbelief. It was even more shocking than seeing Wang Teng defeat Occam. Was Wang Teng a devil? He must be. Occam, at least, was a powerhouse on the top 100 heaven stage martial warrior ranking. Being defeated was one thing, but suffering such inhuman torture was another. Wu De's mouth twitched, his eyes filled with astonishment. He had seen Wang Ting use this brick to attack people before, but it was always against new students. He didn't expect that today, even a senior student like Occam would fall victim to this cruel treatment. He suddenly had a premonition that Wang Ting seemed to be extending his evil hand to the senior students. Danger! Yuan Mu felt a dull ache all over his body as if recalling the experience of being brutally beaten by Wang Ting in the freshman leaderboard. Fortunately, at that time, Wang Ting hadn't used this brick. Otherwise, his handsome face might be in danger. This was simply inhumane. Boom! After a moment, Wang Ting swung the brick down, and Occam's body uncontrollably plummeted toward the ground, creating a deep pit upon impact. Silence enveloped the surroundings. All eyes stared blankly at the half-dead Occam in the deep pit. Their mouths were slightly agape, they had completely lost the ability to speak. At this moment, they truly realized the extent of Wang Teng's methods. They suddenly discovered that this new counselor, despite having just taken office without any foundation, and perhaps ranking at the bottom in terms of strength among many counselors, was not someone to be trifled with. His ruthless and domineering methods were in no way inferior to those of well-established counselors. Occam thought he could easily manipulate Wang Teng, but the reality proved that he paid a heavy price for it. Occam violated the rules, assaulting a counselor. I, as a counselor, declare the revocation of his associate council member status. Does anyone have any objections? Wang Teng looked down at the subdued Occam, calmly announcing his decision. Chapter 2210, Windranger, Counselor Ernest. Wang Ting's calm voice spread slowly, capturing the attention of everyone around him. For a moment, you could hear a pin drop in the silence. Wang Ting was about to directly revoke Occam's associate council member status, a move considered exceptionally ruthless. With this decision, Occam not only lost face but also faced the prospect of losing his associate council member status. It was a severe blow, leaving him in a humiliating position. Was it worth it to retaliate against Wang Ting at the cost of such heavy consequences? Sympathy began to well up among the onlookers. Yuan Mu's expression changed slightly, and he looked at Wang Ting with a hint of astonishment. Revoking Occam's associate council member status directly was a harsh move, leaving no room for compromise. Wu De, too, was taken aback by Wang Ting's decision. He thought Wang Ting intended to make Occam lose face, not to completely strip him of his associate council member status. Wasn't he afraid of offending those who supported Occam behind the scenes? In the past, Occam's associate council member status got snatched by Wang Ting. Half a year later, when the counselor promotion assessment was about to start, he miraculously regained his associate council member status. There must be someone supporting him. The Heaven Stage martial warriors who attacked Wang Ting with Occam were appalled. They stared at Wang Ting in disbelief. If Occam were revoked, they would be in a precarious situation. However, they couldn't act at this moment. Wang Ting's actions made them wary, and the presence of Counselor Wu De deterred them from taking any reckless actions. They felt locked down, and attempting to make a move would surely prompt Counselor Wu De to intervene. They wouldn't be able to break this situation alone. Fart. At this moment, Occam, struggling to rise from the ground, heard Wang Ting's words and sprayed out another mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with despair. Enough, you can leave. Wang Ting glanced at him and said calmly. Wang Ting. Occam clenched his fist, his eyes bloodshot. He glared at Wang Ting, struggling to utter Wang Ting's name through gritted teeth. Why aren't you leaving? Is this not enough? Wang Ting asked. Wang Ting, this is too much. One don't even know that you're a counselor. Occam was furious and struggled to speak coherently. Still want to argue? You knew my identity, yet, driven by personal grievances, you dared to attack me, belittling me for not having a solid foundation, trying to make me lose face. Do you have any respect for the Academy Arbitration Association? Wang Ting shouted fiercely. You. Occam's eyes widened. His fingers trembled as he pointed at Wang Ting. One didn't. You're spouting nonsense. Whether you did or not, you know it in your heart, Wang Ting sneered. Wu De's expression turned strange. Wang Ting was not someone easy to deal with. Not only did he have a thick skin, but he also had a dark heart. Enough. Just at that moment, a stern voice rang out. Wu De's expression shifted slightly, looking towards the void. A figure slowly emerged, walking through the air. It was a martial warrior with long blue hair, appearing to be around 27 or 28 years old. His ears were slightly pointed, and he had a remarkably handsome face. A rhombus-shaped crystal was embedded at his forehead, seemingly fused with his flesh, giving off a mysterious aura. This person was none other than a wind element fairy, a wind ranger, Counselor Ernest. Now he finally understood who was helping Occam. The person before them was a counselor who sided with the judge and, at the same time, served as Occam's backer. Wind Ranger. Wang Ting squinted. He didn't expect to meet another Wind Ranger in the Stellar Academies. In the Great Qian Empire's number 29 defense planet, he met a Wind Ranger who was controlled by a dark apparition. However, that person clearly couldn't compare to the figure before them. The person standing before them was a universe stage martial warrior. The faint aura emanating from him was beyond what a heaven stage martial warrior could possess. Wind Rangers were considered a powerful race in the universe, and the strength of a Wind Ranger who had grown to the universe stage could be imagined. Counselor Ernest. Occam was elated. He looked at the Wind Ranger hopefully. The other heaven stage martial warriors also showed pleased expressions. Excellent, Counselor Ernest had stepped in. Now, let's see how Wang Ting would handle this. Yuan Mu's eyes gleamed as he respectfully nodded toward Counselor Ernest. This counselor held a significant position in his brother's circle, and he had to maintain proper respect. In the universe, showing enough respect to powerful individuals was considered a basic courtesy. Counselor Ernest looked at Yuan Mu, a hint of a smile appearing on his face as he nodded slightly. Then, his gaze shifted to Wang Ting, and the smile faded away. He spoke in a calm tone, Counselor Wang Ting, it's just a minor matter. Why make it such a big fuss? Give me some face, and let's consider this matter settled. Counselor Ernest, right? Wang Ting asked. That's right. Ernest frowned slightly. Seated in a position of authority with formidable strength, Counselor Ernest commanded respect from everyone. Even the judge's brother, Yuan Mu, showed him great deference. However, the tone used by Wang Ting now left Ernest feeling an absence of respect. Although both were counselors, Ernest had never considered them equals. This Wang Ting was just a freshman, similar to Yuan Mu. While he was genuinely surprised that Wang Ting had defeated Occam, it wasn't enough to impress him. Engaging in a calm conversation with a cosmos-stage martial warrior like Wang Ting was already Ernest's greatest act of mercy and patience. Do you think it's a small matter if a counselor from the Academy Arbitration Association is insulted, Counselor Ernest? Wang Ting countered. Ernest's brow furrowed even more deeply. Undoubtedly, Wang Ting had turned the tables on him. If he answered yes, he would be placing the dignity of a counselor in a precarious position. If Counselor Ernest encounters such a situation, would you generously forgive others as well? Wang Ting grinned at him. Please, answer honestly. So many people are watching. If someone inadvertently offends Counselor Ernest in the future, will you also forgive them? Ernest's expression darkened, a cold glint flashing in his eyes as he stared at Wang Ting. Wu De couldn't help but find it amusing. He initially intended to assist Wang Ting, but now he realized that even Ernest was at a disadvantage in front of him. It was quite entertaining. Yuan Mu looked at Wang Ting with surprise, secretly sneering. He couldn't believe Wang Ting dared to confront Counselor Ernest like this. He was courting death. Outrageous. Wang Ting, how dare you speak to Counselor Ernest like this? Occam, enduring intense pain, shouted. You heard it. This guy has no respect for me as a counselor, Wang Ting said, glancing at Ernest. He smiled faintly, a glint of coldness flashing in his eyes, and then vanished from his original position. Ernest's face darkened, reaching out to grab Wang Ting. Wu De, however, intercepted him with a smile. Counselor Ernest, Occam showed disrespect to a counselor and should face punishment. Boom. The next moment, Wang Ting appeared directly above Occam, stomping down with tremendous force onto his head. The terrifying power erupted instantly. Occam never expected that Wang Ting would dare to act in front of Counselor Ernest. He looked at Wang Ting in disbelief. Splat. Without much time to think, a terrifying force surged into his body, causing him to scream in agony. He spat out a large amount of blood, and his entire body was forcefully pressed into the pit by Wang Ting. You rascal. His face turned pale, struggling to lift his head to gaze at Wang Ting. What qualifications do you have to speak to me like that? Wang Ting looked down at Occam with indifference. Wang Ting. Ernest's eyes glinted with coldness as he stared at Wang Ting, saying, You've gone too far. Occam is under my protection. You have no right to discipline him. He disrespected me, so I have the right to discipline him. Any objections, Counselor Ernest? Wang Ting looked at him fearlessly and spoke. This is the Academy Arbitration Association, not a place for your insolence, Ernest said coldly. Is it wrong for me to discipline someone who disrespected me? Wang Ting asked. Even if Occam is at fault, you shouldn't have beaten him like this. Is this how you conduct yourself? Ernest reprimanded him in a cold voice. My conduct is tit for tat. I treat friendly people with tea, and for those with hostility, I'm sorry, but there's only this pair of fists. Wang Ting sneered. Occam is under your protection, so you intend to shield him? Wang Ting asked. If Counselor Ernest has any objections to me, you can report to the Academy Arbitration Association and see if they can what a sharp-tongued Counselor Wang Ting. Ernest's face darkened to the extreme. Wang Ting had completely backed him into a corner, leaving him with no words. He coldly hummed, Today's events will be reported to the Academy Arbitration Association. I'll have all the counselors vote to revoke your counselor status. With your conduct, you're utterly unfit for the position of a counselor. Want to revoke my counselor status? Wang Ting laughed, tilting his head. Just you. Do you represent the entire Academy Arbitration Association? What did you say? Ernest's expression turned icy. No one had dared to speak to him like this before. Wang Ting's repeated mockery infuriated him to the extreme. A terrifying aura erupted from him, pressing down on Wang Ting. Ignoring his status as a counselor, Ernest was ranked in the top 20 of the top 100 universe stage martial warriors, making him one of the most powerful universe stage martial warriors. He could easily crush Wang Ting, a mere cosmos stage martial warrior, with just one finger. Yuan Mu's expression changed instantly. Wang Ting was acting recklessly, pushing Ernest, a counselor, to such an extent. Wasn't he afraid of being suppressed on the spot? Although Wang Ting had already proven he could defeat Occam, challenging Ernest was a different story. The onlookers below were also stunned. Wang Ting was too audacious, daring to confront even Counselor Ernest. Wasn't he afraid? Wang Ting's gaze focused, showing no fear of Ernest's released pressure. In return, he emanated a terrifying aura. Lightning appeared in the void, displaying a mighty and unyielding presence. Simultaneously, an ancient and vast aura, as if traversing the endless ages, descended upon this world, leaving everyone in awe. Chapter 2211, Multifaceted Game. The Apology from the Counselor. 1. The emergence of this imposing presence shook the onlookers. No one could have anticipated that Wang Ting's aura would rival Ernest's. The thunderous and mighty aura, along with the ancient and profound atmosphere, was usually only seen in the presence of eternal stage powerhouses. But now, it manifested around Wang Ting. He was a cosmos stage martial warrior. The difference between him and an eternal stage martial warrior was supposed to be insurmountable. How could he possess such an aura? Ernest's expression changed, puzzled by how Wang Ting could emanate such a strong aura. Even Ernest's imposing presence was being overshadowed. Yuan Mu observed this scene, his gaze rapidly flickering in disbelief. Back when Wang Ting single-handedly faced off against the top 10 geniuses in the freshman leaderboard, he displayed a similar aura. However, the fact that this aura could contend with a universe stage powerhouse was beyond comprehension. Wu De, too, felt a sense of awe. Wang Ting continually shattered his preconceptions. As Ernest unleashed his aura, he prepared to take action. But he didn't anticipate that Wang Ting would react even faster, releasing an aura comparable to his. How did this guy cultivate? But soon, he quickly recovered and said in a deep voice, "Counselor Ernest, have you considered the consequences of your actions?" "He is provoking me," Ernest replied calmly. "Chmph." Wang Ting sneered and said, "If Counselor Ernest thinks that being a freshman means I can be bullied, then feel free to come at me. I don't hold this counselor status in as high regard as you do. One just hope you can bear the consequences of your actions. Sometimes ignorance is truly laughable." With that, he shook his head and turned around, ready to leave. "The so-called Academy Arbitration Association is so dirty. You disappoint me. I'd rather not be a counselor." His voice spread throughout the surroundings, causing everyone's expressions to change drastically. Wang Ting was questioning the integrity of the Academy Arbitration Association. Ernest's expression also completely changed. His chest heaved violently, and he was filled with anger almost reaching volcanic eruption. His eyes radiated a cold light, and intense killing intent was brewing. This bastard dared to call him ignorant. Dared to call him laughable. He even dared to question the Academy Arbitration Association. If news of today's event spread, his reputation would likely be completely tarnished. Unexpectedly, Wang Ting, whom he thought he could easily manipulate, had pushed him to such an extent. The problem was that he had no way to deal with Wang Ting. Ernest's face turned pale. His gaze locked onto Wang Ting's retreating figure. He refused to believe that Wang Ting would give up his counselor status so easily. Wang Ting seemed to be deliberately leading him on, trying to force him to submit. This was just wishful thinking. He would never yield to a cosmos stage martial warrior, absolutely not. Step by step, Wang Ting moved toward his Devil Slayer spacecraft. He wasn't joking. He currently had no means to deal with Ernest, but these people were delusional if they thought they could humiliate him. He hadn't come here to be bullied. As for this score, he would settle it slowly in the future. Although he had indeed defeated a universe stage martial warrior before, those were highly exceptional circumstances. Ernest was undoubtedly at the pinnacle among universe stage beings, someone he couldn't contend with at the moment. Counselor Wu De observed the scene without intervening, his eyes filled with a hint of mockery. How interesting. Wang Ting, even before officially joining the Academy Arbitration Association, managed to make old-timer counselors like Ernest suffer a setback, to the point where Ernest had no means to deal with him. This was the first time in history. "Ernest, what would you do?" Senator Wood was intrigued. Would he allow Wang Ting to leave freely, or would he admit to his mistakes? Suddenly, his expression changed. He looked in another direction. "Counselor Wang Ting, please wait." A voice rang out, and 3 figures appeared abruptly in front of Wang Ting, blocking his way. This is getting more and more interesting. Wu Des couldn't help but feel a slight excitement. Wang Ting had managed to attract the attention of so many counselors. It seemed that Wang Ting's entry into the Academy Arbitration Association had stirred the interest of many. If not, these individuals wouldn't have appeared simultaneously. If Wang Ting didn't cause such a commotion, they wouldn't appear here and would just continue watching the drama. Wang Ting narrowed his eyes, scrutinizing the group of individuals. He activated his real eye, allowing him to discern their strengths, which were no less than that of Ernest. The force glow around them was dazzling, indicating they were all at the universe stage. The simultaneous appearance of several universe stage martial warriors, especially in such circumstances, indicated that they were most likely counselors. They didn't show up earlier, but now they all appeared one by one. HMPH Wang Ting snorted in his heart. Counselor Song Quan, Counselor Hong Lai, Counselor Antoine. Goodness, these are well-known counselors, and they have all appeared because of Wang Ting. Amazing, Wang Ting is indeed extraordinary, managing to attract so many counselors at once. I just wonder which side these counselors are on. The onlookers below were shocked to see 3 counselors appear simultaneously. They couldn't help but discuss the situation. What is it? Wang Ting's mood was not particularly good at the moment. He didn't treat them with much regard, and when he saw the 3 figures in front of him, he simply asked indifferently. Chapter 22:12, Multifaceted Game. The apology from the counselor. 2. Among the 3 individuals before him, 2 of them frowned slightly, seemingly displeased. They felt that Wang Ting had a huge temper. The one leading them was a seemingly genial young man who introduced himself, saying, "Counselor Wang Ting, my name is Song Quan. 1 a.m. also a counselor within the Academy Arbitration Association. Wang Ting, Counselor Song Quan is neutral. Has not on the judge's side," Wu De said hurriedly using voice transmission. Counselor Song Quan. Wang Ting nodded at the other party. Since he was not affiliated with the judge, there was no need to direct his anger towards him. At this point, Wang Ting was gaining some understanding of the internal power struggles within the Academy Arbitration Association. Ernest was evidently on the judge's side, which was the most powerful faction within the Academy Arbitration Association of the 7th Stellar Academy. However, it was clear that they didn't particularly favor Wang Ting. The events of today led Wang Ting to consider many possibilities. Perhaps from the beginning, the 7th judge had wanted to suppress him by not allowing him to enter the core circle of the Arbitration Association so quickly. Unfortunately, things did not go as planned. Wang Ting was not one to be easily suppressed. His decisive actions caught the judge off guard, making it impossible to prevent him from entering the core circle of the Academy Arbitration Association. One could only imagine the current frustration of the judge over this matter. Wang Ting couldn't help but think about this. Suddenly, he found it amusing. The idea of causing vexation to a judge gave him a peculiar sense of accomplishment. Counselor Wang Ting, the previous actions of Counselor Ernest were indeed inappropriate, but our Academy Arbitration Association is by no means as you imagine. Please do not misunderstand, Counselor Song Quan said, noticing the softened tone of Wang Ting. I also want to believe that the Academy Arbitration Association is just, but what one have witnessed today, even my personal experience, has left me somewhat disheartened. Wang Ting shook his head, expressing a sense of grievance and profound disappointment. Well, Counselor Song Quan was somewhat at a loss for words. After a brief pause, he looked behind him and said, Counselor Ernest, your handling of this matter was indeed not well considered. For the sake of the reputation of the Academy Arbitration Association, you should apologize to Counselor Wang Ting. Wang Ting was a bit surprised. Counselor Song Quan requested an apology from Ernest. This was intriguing. Apologize? Absolutely impossible. Ernest's expression turned grim. Counselor Song Quan, you've seen it. Counselor Ernest is simply trying to humiliate me, Wang Ting said. What do you think? Councillor Song Quan shook his head and looked at the other two councillors. Hong Lai and Antoine exchanged glances with each other. They were in a dilemma but ultimately chose to compromise. Ernest, apologize. Don't make things difficult for the judge, Hong Lai said using voice transmission. Apologize to a Cosmos stage martial warrior? Have you all gone mad? Ernest's face darkened. It's not that we've gone mad, but if this matter continues to escalate, it will inevitably involve the president. Wang Teng's status as a councillor was personally requested by the president. Consider how the judge will ultimately handle this, Antoine said. What? The president? Ernest's expression changed drastically, looking at Wang Ting with disbelief. Otherwise, how do you think he went from an associate council member to a councillor? Hong Lai sighed. Ernest's expression kept changing. He was undergoing intense inner struggles. Finally, he gritted his teeth and said, "Fine, one apologize. One won't make things difficult for the judge." At this point, the onlookers below were already having difficulty processing the situation. Those councillors actually made Councillor Ernest apologize to Wang Ting. Occam wore a shocked expression, feeling as if his heart had turned to ashes. If Councillor Ernest was forced to apologize, was there any hope left for him? How did this happen? Things shouldn't be like this. On what grounds did Wang Ting make a long-established, powerful councillor in the Academy Arbitration Association apologize? Countless doubts surged in Occam's mind. Yuan Mu stared blankly at everything, his fists unconsciously clenched. Wang Ting had caught him completely off guard. Why could he consistently achieve what others couldn't? Wang Ting calmly watched Ernest, his eyes indifferent yet tinged with a hint of mockery. Seeing Wang Ting's expression, Ernest felt extreme humiliation. Fai maintained a stoic expression and took a deep breath. I apologize for the improper handling of the matter involving Occam earlier. It's entirely my fault and has nothing to do with the Arbitration Association. His voice wasn't low, ensuring that everyone in the vicinity could hear. It seemed like a genuinely sincere acknowledgement of his mistake. Gasp. A collective gasp swept through the crowd. Ernest had offered a genuine apology. A universe stage martial warrior apologizing to a Cosmos stage martial warrior, a veteran councillor apologizing to a new councillor. It was beyond imagination. The gleam in Occam's eyes completely dimmed. With Councillor Ernest's apology, he was beyond salvation. Wrong. He was wrong. To make a veteran senator apologize, Wang Ting was someone he couldn't afford to provoke. Now he realized how absurd he had been, foolishly attempting to provoke someone he couldn't handle. It was a bitter pill to swallow. Yuan Mu's mind was in turmoil, unable to find calmness. Something seemed to be sprouting within him. So, this was true dominance. In the past, he had lived under the shadow of his brother's influence. All his semblance of dominance stemmed from his brother, not from himself. He couldn't be compared to Wang Ting. Wang Ting's eyes narrowed slightly, a sense of vigilance rising within. Ernest was no ordinary opponent. He could bend and yield, as evidenced by his public apology. Such adversaries were the most formidable. Unfortunately, he was unable to resolve this adversary currently. He understood very well that the animosity between him and Ernest had solidified today. Ernest wouldn't easily let him off, and he had no intention of letting it end either. Both were acutely aware of this. Councillor Wang Teng, Councillor Ernest has already apologized to you. What do you think? Councillor Song Quan inquired. What about this man? Wang Teng pointed at Occam. Occam attacked a councillor without cause, so naturally, his associate council member status should be revoked. Hong Lai interjected indifferently before Song Quan could speak. He was just an associate council member. Revoking him was not a problem. Even if he had become a councillor, in their eyes, he was still far inferior. They had held councillor positions for a long time, wielding indescribable influence within the Academy Arbitration Association. Newly appointed councillors were incomparable to them. Of course, Wang Teng was an exception. He was so special that the councillors had to treat him with caution. Otherwise, today's scene wouldn't have unfolded. Wang Teng looked at Ernest. Revoke it, Ernest said nonchalantly, no longer sparing a glance at Occam. Good. Wang Ting nodded and said, it would have been better if things had turned out this way earlier. Why escalate it to this extent? Occam wore an expression of despair. The position he had pursued for years was now irretrievably lost, and it seemed unlikely that he would ever have another chance to enter the Academy Arbitration Association. After having his associate council member status revoked, he would be completely estranged from the council. Many onlookers sighed in sympathy. Occam's fate was truly tragic. Offending Wang Ting had led to a fate worse than a beating, 1,000 times more miserable. Councillor Wang Teng, since the matter has been resolved, why not accompany us to handle the formalities for your councillor position? Councillor Song Quan gestured, suggesting they move on. Wang Ting had become a hot potato. To avoid further escalation, it was best to facilitate his smooth transition to a councillor. This way, they could prevent drawing the attention of the president. Wang Ting nodded. At this stage, he wouldn't give up his councillor status. To counterbalance against Ernest, he needed to leverage this position. Song Quan breathed a sigh of relief. Subsequently, they led Wang Teng towards the interior of the Academy Arbitration Association. Ernest's gaze remained cold as he stared at Wang Teng's departing figure. It wasn't until Wang Ting had completely entered the council that Ernest's silhouette slowly faded away. Yuan Mu sighed and cast a glance at Occam. He instructed someone to help him with his injuries before turning away. He needed to return to his cultivation and catch up with Wang Ting. The onlookers gradually dispersed, but each person continued to discuss the incident with great interest. The events that had unfolded at the entrance of the Academy Arbitration Association today were destined to be remembered. No one had ever dared to be so audacious at the council's doorstep. Someone also recorded the recent happenings, turning them into a video and sharing it on the students' internal network, causing a significant stir. Chapter 22:13 Tong Yas Gif 1. The events at the entrance of the Academy Arbitration Association quickly spread throughout the 7th Stellar Academy. Wang Teng became a councillor. This was everyone's first reaction after hearing the news. Wang Ting had been an associate council member, and now, surprisingly, he became a councillor. It caught everyone off guard. Outsiders were unaware of what had happened, and why Wang Ting had suddenly become a councillor without even passing the councillor promotion assessment. However, they had to believe it as many saw on the internal network video that several councillors had acknowledged Wang Teng's councillor status. This was an undeniable fact. Councillor. When Feng Qingyang learned of this news, his expression changed drastically. His face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He had just prepared to seclude himself for cultivation when he heard this news, making it impossible for him to focus on seclusion. This person must be eliminated. Murderous intent surged in Feng Qingyang's eyes. Wang Ting had gradually reached a threatening position. If he was allowed to continue developing, even standing firm in the Academy Arbitration Association, Feng Qingyang would likely face difficulties. Knowing Wang Teng's vengeful nature, Feng Qingyang believed that, given Wang Teng's past actions, he wouldn't easily relent. How are the preparations you made? Ruan Banlian hurriedly approached, asking immediately upon meeting. As long as he leaves the Stellar Academy, we can take action. Feng Qingyang glanced at her and said calmly. Good. Ruan Banlian took a deep breath, calmed her emotions, and coldly stated, now that he has become a councillor, he will definitely leave the Stellar Academy for relevant tasks. This is an excellent opportunity. We can't let him continue to grow. Rest assured, this time he won't escape. Feng Qingyang spoke with confidence. Seeing his demeanor, Ruan Banlian was very curious about the methods he had employed. However, she didn't get an answer after asking him a few times. Hence, she decided not to press further this time. On the other side, Yu Chiqiao, Wu Yang, and others also received the news simultaneously, causing quite a stir. Councillor. I didn't expect Wang Ting to become a councillor, Yu Chiqiao exclaimed. How did he manage that? Wu Yang's eyes flickered with disbelief. That guy had become a councillor. That was the councillor of the Academy Arbitration Association, a position that even heaven-stage martial warriors might struggle to attain. It was unbelievable that Wang Teng, who was only at the Cosmos stage, became a counselor successfully. Yu Yunxian, Baichuan Liu, Lu Tian, and the others showed expressions of surprise as well. Despite acknowledging that Wang Ting was indeed more formidable than them, the speed at which he ascended to become a counselor was astonishing. In a blink of an eye, he became a counselor of the Academy Arbitration Association. They immediately felt the difference in status. Ha ha ha, the boss is mighty, the boss is awesome. Wade, on the other hand, didn't dwell on the complexities. For him, the news of Wang Ting becoming a counselor was a huge cause for celebration. Becoming a counselor with the status of a new student was an unprecedented event. The only way to describe it was with one word: impressive. But this guy offended another counselor right after becoming one. Is that a good move? Yu Chichiao remarked with a speechless expression. The others were also a bit speechless. Upon reflection, they realized that Wang Ting seemed to have offended a veteran advisor named Ernest right after becoming a counselor, and he did so quite thoroughly without leaving any room for reconciliation. His talent for stirring up mischief was truly unmatched. But it seems like that counselor Ernest didn't do anything to the boss in the end. Wade couldn't help muttering. Wang Teng may not seem to have suffered a loss this time, but the other party is a seasoned counselor with tremendous influence. If he wants to deal with Wang Teng, it's simple. Yu Chichiao shook her head. That's true. I've heard of that counselor Ernest. Even my big brother has to be cautious around him, Wu Yang uttered with a slightly serious expression. Let's hope Wang Ting is truly confident in dealing with it, Yu Chichiao sighed. They had no way of intervening in the matters of the Academy Arbitration Association. Wu Yang and the others shook their heads and didn't say much more. On the other side, inside an estate, Tong Yen and a breathtakingly beautiful woman sat together. Both of them had also acquired the news of Wang Ting turning into a counselor. Sister, see? I was right about him. This guy is not simple at all. Tong Yen's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Then, she gloated. A counselor? The stunning woman raised an eyebrow and nodded. Becoming her advisor in the Academy Arbitration Association right after reaching the Cosmos stage is indeed not simple. No wonder you've been praising him. The beautiful woman was none other than Tong Yen's sister, the beauty listed on the Universe Goddess rank, Tong Ya. If one observed their features closely, there were similarities between them. It could be uttered that Tong Yen's cute appearance was a slightly misshapen creation by the creator. And he dared to offend Ernest the moment he entered the Academy Arbitration Association. It really surprised me, Tong Ya commented as she watched the video circulating on the internal network. He's bold and fearless. Ernest thought he had him figured out, but he didn't expect to encounter a tough and unyielding opponent who's as hard as a rock. Tong Yen laughed. Hard as a rock, your metaphors are quite crude, Tong Ya uttered with a bit of exasperation. He's just that kind of person, Tong Yen grinned. But he's not bad to his friends. Chapter 22:14, Tong Ya's GIF. 2. Tong Ya nodded. She gave her a meaningful look and said, It seems like you have a high opinion of him. Sister, do you think Wang Teng's alchemy skills can be of help to you? Tong Yen leaned in, linking arms with Tong Ya, and asked with a mischievous smile. Oh, you want him to help me? Tong Ya raised an eyebrow in surprise. Yes, his alchemy skills are quite extraordinary. The appearance of the Azure Dragon last time seemed to be related to him. Someone who can refine such high-level pills should be capable of assisting you, Tong Yen said. I see. Tong Ya nodded and said, but the materials for that kind of elixir are hard to find. Even if you manage to find one of the main ingredients on the Scorpion King Star, there's still another scarce main ingredient missing, and I'm still searching for it. She sighed as she spoke. What should we do? What other material is still missing? Tong Yen asked anxiously. I can suppress the poison in my body for some time. You don't have to worry too much. Tong Ya smiled. What ingredient do we need? Sister, tell me quickly. Are you trying to drive me crazy? Tong Yen asked agitatedly. You're still so impatient, Tong Yue chuckled and patted his head affectionately. The missing material is called Cloud Immortal Milk. Cloud Immortal Milk. Tong Yen furrowed his brows. I've never heard of such a material. It's normal that you haven't heard of it. Generally, only universe stage martial warriors and above would come into contact with it, Tong Yue explained. Her tone turned stern as she continued, don't go looking for it. It's extremely rare, and its grade is quite high. It has a fatal attraction to ultimate stage imperial level star beasts and above. Therefore, such treasures are always guarded by powerful star beasts. It's not something you, a heaven stage martial warrior, can obtain. Ultimate stage imperial level and above star beast. Tong Yen was flabbergasted. She stuck out her tongue, exclaiming, looks like only you, sis, can handle this. I can't. He was quite self-aware. If Cloud Immortal Milk was guarded by star beasts of the ultimate stage imperial level and above, it was definitely beyond her reach. While she wanted to help her sister, she knew her limitations. If she recklessly tried to find Cloud Immortal Milk, she might end up needing her sister to rescue her. That would be awkward. As long as you understand, Tong Yue said. Should one drop a hint to Wang Ting and see what he says? Tong Yen suggested, clearly not giving up on the idea of seeking Wang Ting's help. Let's do this. With his recent appointment as a counselor, you can send a gift in my name, Tong Yue proposed. She thought for a moment and waved her hand, conjuring a delicate jade box onto the table. In your name, Tong Yen exclaimed in surprise. She hadn't expected his sister to take the initiative to send a gift. It seemed that even her sister was approaching Wang Ting with caution after he became a counselor. Opening the jade box, Tong Yen found an ancient-looking scroll inside. What is this? Tong Yen looked at the scroll in the jade box and asked curiously. This is an alchemical manual I happened to obtain, written by a semi-alchemy saint. Originally, I planned to use it to impress alchemists when seeking their assistance. But now that you've found an excellent alchemist for me, I'll give this manual to him, Tong Yue explained with a smile. A semi-alchemy saint's alchemical manual. Tong Yen exclaimed in astonishment. Sis, you're generous. This item isn't of much use to us. Its true potential can only be realized in the hands of a grandmaster alchemist, Tong Yue said nonchalantly. Don't say that. If you auctioned it off, many grandmaster alchemists would be eager to obtain it. They'd be more than willing to help you with making pills. It's a real bargain for Wang Ting, Tong Yen remarked. How can other alchemists compare to Grandmaster Wang Ting? He's so young and exceptionally talented in martial arts. Giving away a somewhat unimportant alchemical manual to gain his friendship and take advantage of the situation is a win for us, Tong Yue said with a wise twinkle in her eyes, chuckling. Sis, you're quite cunning, Tong Yen said, staring at her in disbelief before finally responding. She thought she was clever, but compared to her sister, she felt like a fool. No wonder her sister made it onto the universe goddess rank. Did you just call your sister cunning? Tong Yue poked her cheek with an annoyed expression, rolling her eyes. Ha ha. Tong Yen chuckled, not caring at all. She didn't call her sister scheming. It was just a playful comment among sisters. Go on then, Tong Yue said, shaking her head with a smile. All right, I'm off, Tong Yen nodded, picking up the jade box from the table and happily bouncing away. Tong Yen wasn't the only one who took action after seeing the news. Even Ji Feiyun, Wu Ta, and the others began to prepare gifts to congratulate Wang Ting, just like Tong Yue did. Becoming a counselor elevated Wang Ting's status to a level equal to theirs. If before, they were only interested in Wang Ting's potential, now they had to treat him on an equal footing due to his official position. In a way, they were delighted that Wang Ting had become a counselor, as it affirmed the wisdom of their decision to invest in him from the beginning. Wang Ting has become a counselor. The warriors of the solar dragon race also gathered together. Upon seeing the news, Zhu Longshan was filled with astonishment, followed by envy and jealousy. It seems one need to send him a gift too, Zhu Longshuang chuckled. She stretched her large, beautiful body and yawned lazily. Do we really have to do that? We are from the solar dragon race. Zhu Longhao frowned. Whether one send a gift or not is my business, and it has nothing to do with you guys, Zhulong Shuang casually remarked. You are still part of the solar dragon race too. Zhulong Hao and the others were speechless. Is it shameful to give a gift to a counselor? Zhulong Shuang asked. He's just a cosmos stage martial warrior, and he offended Counselor Ernest. Don't forget, Counselor Ernest is on the judge's side, Zhulong Hao said. So what? Zhulong Shuang remained unmoved and continued walking out of the estate. Ridiculous. Zhulong Hao was furious. This woman never gave him face during internal meetings. Externally, Zhulong Shuang would stand with them because they were all from the solar dragon race. However, Zhulong Shuang and Zhulong Hao were on different sides. They had their own factions in their race, so they never agreed with each other. Zhulong Shan's gaze flickered. His elder brother, Zhulong Yi, was on the judge's side, but Zhulong Shuang insisted on siding with Wang Teng. A bunch of idiots. Zhulong Shuang walked out of the gate, shook her head, and cursed disdainfully. A few martial warriors from the solar dragon race walked out with her. Upon hearing her curse, they couldn't help but feel a bit awkward. Sister Shuang, do we have to give a gift to that Wang Teng? A heaven stage martial warrior from the solar dragon race asked. Why, do you disagree too? Zhulong Shuang said. It's not that we disagree. It's just that we're a bit confused. Wang Ting's foundation is not stable, and rushing to establish a relationship with him might not be wise, the solar dragon race martial warrior said. I see potential in him, that's all. Zhulong Shuang glanced at him and said indifferently. The solar dragon race martial warriors were stunned. They didn't expect Zhulong Shuang to give such a whimsical answer, leaving them unsure of how to respond. Use your brains to think. If we wait for him to establish a firm foothold before trying to establish a relationship, will it be the same as it is now? Zhulong Shuang sneered. The solar dragon race martial warriors looked at each other. They naturally understood this principle, but the risk seemed somewhat significant, leading to their hesitation. Risks always come proportionate to rewards. If I bet right this time, I will gain substantial rewards. Zhulong Shuang's eyes gleamed as she spoke. Since Sister Shuang is willing to take the gamble, then we naturally follow suit and take the risk. The martial warriors from the solar dragon race exchanged glances and immediately expressed their stance. Very well. Zhulong Shuang patted the shoulder of the solar dragon race martial warrior who had spoken earlier and smiled. Chapter 22:15, The Battle of Talents, Who Will Rise? 1. Academy Arbitration Association. Counselor Song Quan handed a badge to Wang Ting with a smile and said, Counselor Wang Ting, from now on, we are colleagues. Let's chat more when we have time. Wang Ting took the badge, examined it, and noticed the unique emblem of the Arbitration Association along with a star, symbolizing his new status as a counselor. If there were no stars, it would mean being an ordinary member. Thank you, Counselor Song Quan. Wang Ting greeted the young man before him with a fist and a smile. No need to be so polite, Song Quan shook his head and explained, every new counselor is assigned a specific jurisdiction to oversee all young warriors in that area. Your jurisdiction is here. He opened a star map and pointed to a particular location. Where is this? Wang Ting asked, puzzled. From the star map, it seemed quite remote. It was unfamiliar to him compared to the star territories he knew. The Phantom Drift Territorial Domain. Before Song Quan could respond, Round Ball's grim voice suddenly echoed in Wang Ting's mind. The Phantom Drift Territorial Domain? Wang Ting's eyes showed a hint of surprise. He sensed something amiss in Round Ball's voice and asked, what's special about the Phantom Drift Territorial Domain? Counselor Wang Teng, Song Quan glanced around and spoke in a low voice, this place is the Phantom Drift Territorial Domain. You should have heard of it. It is the most chaotic among all 0136 human territorial domains. The most chaotic territorial domain. Wang Teng's mind stirred, looking at Song Quan with a hint of understanding as if he had already figured out something. Wang Ting, he's right. The Phantom Drift Territorial Domain is known as the most chaotic territory. It's teeming with all sorts of characters, warriors refusing to be disciplined and unwilling to join the stellar academies. It's like a hot potato. Someone must have intentionally assigned you to supervise this area, said Round Ball. Interesting. Wang Ting's eyes gleamed, and he suddenly burst into laughter. Wang Teng, this place is not an ordinary territory. Be careful, Song Quan, seeing Wang Ting laugh, shook his head and reminded him. Thank you for the warning, Counselor Song Quan. Wang Teng expressed his gratitude. Don't mention it. We can't change the decision of the supervisory area. We're truly sorry, Song Quan apologized. I know it's not your fault, Wang Ting said with a faint smile. He wouldn't vent his anger on him. Seeing his understanding, Song Quan also breathed a sigh of relief. Counselor Song Quan, which part of the Phantom Drift territorial domain am one supervising? It can't be the entire region, right? Wang Ting asked with a smile. Counselor Song Quan was momentarily stunned, finding Wang Teng's thoughts a bit amusing. Even for seasoned counselors, it was rare to independently supervise an entire territory, let alone a newly appointed counselor without any foundation or support. You dare to dream, Wang Ting, Round Ball shook its head, feeling a bit speechless. Ha ha ha, one was just talking nonsense. Who knew you would take it seriously, Wang Ting laughed. The area you'll be supervising is called the 5 Burial Stars in the Phantom Drift territorial domain, Song Quan said with a touch of exasperation. 5 Burial Stars. Wang Ting nodded. You can look up information about the 5 Burial Stars when you go back. Song Quan sighed and looked at Wang Teng with sympathy. All right, one understand. Wang Teng seemed to read something from his expression but didn't inquire further, simply nodding. Well then, Counselor Wang Teng, please head to the 5 Burial Stars in the Phantom Drift territorial domain within half a month. Remember not to delay, or the consequences will be severe, Song Quan reminded and then said, I'll take my leave. As he spoke, his figure slowly disappeared in front of Wang Teng. Counselor Hong Lai and Antoine had already left, seemingly uninterested in any association with Wang Teng. Wang Teng walked out of the office. Counselor Wu De was waiting outside. Seeing Wang Teng come out, he asked, How is it? Did you confirm the supervisory area? Yes. Wang Teng nodded. Phantom Drift territorial domain, 5 Burial Stars. Counselor Wu De looked at Wang Ting with a strange expression, seemingly mixed with astonishment, sympathy, and a hint of anger, a complex set of emotions. After remaining silent for a while, he sighed and said, These people seem determined to push you onto a dead-end road. Is the 5 Burial Stars that terrifying? Wang Ting asked curiously. So far, 5 counselors who went to the 5 Burial Stars have died, Counselor Wu De stated. 5 dead. Wang Ting's eyes widened, and he couldn't help but exclaim, Damn. He finally understood why Counselor Song Quan was reluctant to elaborate further. Clearly, the 5 Burial Stars was no ordinary place and might be even more terrifying than he had imagined. In a chaotic region like the Phantom Drift, having 5 counselors die implied a place of extreme danger. The 5 Burial Stars was scarier than he initially thought. In addition, many other counselors who went there returned empty-handed or, worse, were crippled, Counselor Wu De added, causing Wang Ting's heart to sink further. Why is it like this? Wang Ting furrowed his brows and asked. The situation on the 5 Burial Stars is quite complex. I can't explain it in a few words. One suggests you go back and investigate for yourself. Also, if possible, it's better to decline. I don't recommend you go there. If you must, make sure to bring a few bodyguards. Going alone, especially as a Cosmos Stage martial warrior, your strength is still somewhat lacking, Counselor Wu De advised after pondering for a moment. Chapter 22:16, The Battle of Talents, Who Will Rise? 2. Wang Teng, seeing his attitude, no longer pressed for more information. After exchanging a few words, they bid farewell and went their separate ways. Wang Teng harbored no ill feelings toward Counselor Wu De. The counselor had assisted him several times. As for his not intervening in the matters of the Qingyang society, Wang Teng had no reason to hold any grudges. As the saying goes, helping is a matter of kindness, and not helping is a matter of duty. Leaving the Academy Arbitration Association, Wang Teng retrieved his Devil Slayer spacecraft and flew towards his estate. Suddenly, Ernest, Hong Lai, and Antoine appeared in the sky, watching Wang Teng's departing spaceship. "This time, let's see if he can come back alive," Ernest said with a sinister tone. "Ernest, you've embarrassed yourself this time. If we come out a bit later, it wouldn't end well for you," Hong Lai remarked. "Why didn't you tell me earlier that the president was backing him?" Ernest said. "We thought you already knew," Antoine replied innocently. Ernest glanced at the two and said, "Since he's backed by the president, by sending him to the 5 burial star, will it cause trouble with the judge?" "Not likely. The president and the judge have already negotiated. Once Wang Teng enters the Academy Arbitration Association, he must abide by the rules of the Arbitration Association," Antoine explained. "The president probably wants to give him some experience. He really values this kid," Hong Lai remarked. "His talent is too extraordinary. He's not even on the same level as Yuan Mu, and the difference between them is enormous," Ernest frowned. "Yuan Mu possesses the divine constellation physique, and yet he still can't match him. It's truly unbelievable," Hong Lai said with a serious expression. "That's right. That's why we can't let him grow," Antoine agreed. If only he could behave a bit, but he insists on being at odds with us." Antoine shook his head, chuckled, and said, "Well, every genius is proud. Stand out in the forest, and the wind will inevitably break it." Hong Lai sneered. "Let's be that gust of wind." The three of them slowly disappeared from the spot. Their words were unheard by outsiders, as if there was a field around them that isolated all sound. Undercurrents surged. The stellar academies had never been calm. In the contest of the most exceptional talents, who would prevail? Everything would be revealed in due time. Wang Teng returned to his estate and secluded himself in the cultivation room. "Round Ball, have you found out what's going on with the 5 burial stars?" Wang Teng sat down and asked directly. Round Ball's figure emerged nearby, wearing a serious expression. Then, with a wave of its hand, it summoned a star map. In the star map, there was a completely unfamiliar planetary sector. Prominent in the scene were 5 enormous planets floating in the cosmic expanse. Surrounding the 5 planets was an odd kind of cosmic dust, forming a massive ring. "These are the 5 burial stars." Round Ball pointed at the 5 planets. "The 5 burial stars isn't just one planet. It's the 5 planets. Are all 5 of these planets inhabited?" Wang Teng asked in surprise. "Yes, they are all life planets. The environment on these 5 planets is harsh, but they harbor many powerful beings, and their influence is extremely vast. Outsiders can't interfere, which is why the members of the Academy Arbitration Association can't establish a foothold there," Round Ball explained. "The counselors of the Academy Arbitration Association are at least at the heaven stage or even the universe stage. Could it be that there are powerful older generation experts on the 5 burial stars?" Wang Teng frowned. "Aren't they afraid of the Academy Arbitration Association? Mind you, the Stellar Arbitration Council is behind the Academy Arbitration Association. No, everything is within the rules, and that's what makes it so tricky," Round Ball said. "The 5 burial stars send out young warriors to deal with the members of the Academy Arbitration Association. These warriors are talented and powerful, matching or even surpassing the members of the Academy Arbitration Association. The younger generations of the 5 burial planet are so powerful." Wang Teng was surprised. The counselors of the Academy Arbitration Association were all talented martial warriors from the stellar academies. Their talent and ability were top-notch. It was unbelievable that they would be defeated one after another by the warriors from the 5 burial stars. This didn't make sense. This is true. The warriors from the 5 burial stars are incredibly powerful, Round Ball said with a bitter smile. Why doesn't the Academy Arbitration Association send even more talented individuals? One find it hard to believe that they can't find such geniuses. Wang Teng questioned. It's probably because the 5 burial stars is too remote and the environment is too harsh. Those geniuses are unwilling to go there, Round Ball explained with a hint of helplessness. It's like a tough piece of meat, there's not much flesh, and eating it is tasteless, but discarding it is a pity. Wang Ting began to understand. He had been handed the toughest piece of meat. Others didn't want to gnaw on it, but he had no choice. If he was careless, he might choke on it unintentionally. These people were shameless. Unable to prevent him from entering the Academy Arbitration Association, they used this method to make him suffer defeat on the 5 burial stars. If one go to the 5 burial stars, will they send Heaven Stage or Universe Stage martial warriors? Wang Ting pondered and asked. They probably won't, Round Ball replied. They wouldn't dare to violate the rules to maintain this balance. If they didn't follow the rules, the Academy Arbitration Association could have sent powerful individuals to suppress them. It's a matter of the face of the Academy Arbitration Association. However, the situation behind the scenes is hard to discern. After all, such things cannot be investigated, Round Ball stated. Wang Ting nodded thoughtfully and said, Tell me about the distribution of power on the 5 burial stars so that one can be prepared. Are you going? Round Ball asked. Of course, Wang Ting replied with a faint smile. They want me dead on the 5 burial stars, but I'm going to subdue it just to show them. In the future, the 5 burial stars will be my territory. Didn't you say the martial warriors there are powerful and formidable? If one can bring them under my control, wouldn't that be even more advantageous for me? Those veteran senators have their own forces that have developed over many years. One want to catch up as quickly as possible. Such a place undoubtedly suits me better. Round Ball looked at him confidently and couldn't help but feel speechless. She said, You don't even know if you can protect yourself, and now you want to subdue the 5 burial stars. Aren't you thinking too much? Ha ha ha, it's precisely because it's difficult that it's more challenging, and I like that, Wang Ting said. Just wait and see. If I don't subdue the 5 burial stars, then my name isn't Wang Ting. Alright, as long as you're confident, Round Ball said. Do you want to find a few more powerful warriors to accompany you and ensure your safety? I think that would be a good idea, Wang Ting pondered. Round Ball, *_Wang Ting, equals you, Happy Smiley. Round Ball had just finished explaining the power distribution of the 5 burial stars to Wang Ting when someone approached. Tong Yen, why is she here? Wang Ting asked in surprise when he saw the person on the screen. She's probably here to congratulate you, Round Ball replied with a smile. Let her in, Wang Ting instructed. Then he added, Well, I'll go and meet her myself. Tong Yen was his senior sister. He mustn't treat her impolitely. After reaching the entrance, Wang Ting opened the main gate and welcomed Tong Yen into the living room. He then spoke, Senior sister, why do you have the time to visit me today? Here. Tong Yen got straight to the point, presenting a jade box. I've brought a gift to congratulate you. My sister heard that you became a counselor, so she specially asked me to bring this gift to celebrate your achievement. Your sister? Wang Ting was surprised. He knew that Tong Yen's sister was a notable figure on the Universe Goddess ranking with considerable fame. It was unexpected that she would pay attention to a freshman like him. Yeah, what do you think? My sister is keeping an eye on you. Are you secretly happy about it? Tong Yen teased him, raising her eyebrows. Well, I'm used to being observed. After all, I'm so handsome and talented, Wang Ting said nonchalantly. TSK. Tong Yen rolled her eyes. This guy had thick skin. Chapter 22:17, Duel between two women. While Wang Ting and Tong Yen were in the midst of their conversation, a notification rang through the estate, indicating that someone else had arrived. Zhulong Shuang. Surprisingly, the person who came to find him was Zhulong Shuang. Wang Ting was surprised. He didn't expect Zhulong Shuang to come. What is it? Tong Yen couldn't help but ask when she saw his strange expression. The Solar Dragon Race, Wang Ting replied. Why is the Solar Dragon Race here? Tong Yen asked in surprise. Same reason as you, Wang Ting stood up, saying, I'll go out to greet her. After some time, Wang Ting brought Zhulong Shuang in. Seeing Tong Yen in the room, Zhulong Shuang couldn't help but show a hint of surprise and said, It seems someone is faster than me. Please have a seat, Wang Ting said after inviting her to sit down. Then he asked, what brings you here? Anything you need from me? I'm here to congratulate you on becoming a counselor, Zhulong Shuang casually remarked. You're really astonishing. It's been just a short while, and you're already a counselor. Even I have to rush over to flatter you. Wang Ting was speechless. Zhulong Shuang took out a space ring and placed it on the table. This is the Solar Dragon Stone unique to our Solar Dragon race. It is an excellent material for refining fire element weapons, and it's hard for outsiders to obtain. I brought some specially for you. Solar Dragon Stone, Round Ball exclaimed in surprise. What's the matter? Is the Solar Dragon Stone rare? Wang Ting asked in his heart. It is rumored that on the planet where the Solar Dragon race resides, there are extensive Solar Dragon Stone mines. The formation of these Solar Dragon Stone mines is extremely unique, requiring a large amount of Solar Dragon flame from the Earth's veins. Only after millions of years of evolution can they possibly condense into form, Roundball explained. Once formed, Solar Dragon stones become an excellent material for forging weapons. It can be used to craft weapons of the heaven stage and above. If there is enough, it can even be used to create a very special spacecraft. This kind of spacecraft is enveloped in flames, not only possessing incredible attacking power but also terrifying defensive capabilities. Are you talking about the Fusion Fire spacecraft? Wang Ting asked in surprise. He had heard of this type of spacecraft, which was available for sale in the virtual universe. However, its exorbitant price was jaw-dropping, with the cost being at least 10 times that of ordinary spacecraft of the same level. Of course, this type of spacecraft was extremely rare and highly sought after by many nobles or the offspring of major powers as a luxurious collectible. What is rare is dear. The Fusion Fire spaceship was such a luxury item. Nobles like Di Qi, who enjoyed collecting spacecraft, would likely go bankrupt if they saw one. Yes, it's the Fusion Fire spacecraft, Roundball nodded. To construct a spacecraft, the required materials are at least in the millions of tons, and Zhulong Shuang can't possibly provide me with so many Solar Dragon stones, Wang Ting said. That's true, Roundball said regretfully. Solar Dragon stones. Tong Yen was surprised too. She had heard of the reputation of Solar Dragon stone, and the other party's generosity was remarkable. Phew. Suddenly, Tong Yen felt somewhat fortunate. The gift her sister had asked her to bring was not inferior in the slightest, and she even believed that Wang Ting would prefer it. Zhulong Shuang glanced at Tong Yen triumphantly and smiled at Wang Ting. Aren't you going to open it? It's embarrassing. You're all too polite, Wang Ting said, but he had already picked up the space ring and explored it with his spiritual power. Zhulong Shuang. Tong Yen. Suddenly, a pile of peculiar dark red stones appeared in Wang Ting's field of vision. He could sense that these stones were intricately engraved with mysterious patterns, resembling tiny dragons or, more accurately, solar dragons. Yes, they were Solar Dragon stones. At the same time, a searing heat emanated from the stones. Even within the space ring, Wang Ting could vividly feel it. Is this the Solar Dragon stone? Wang Ting marveled. Wang Ting, how much is there? Roundball asked eagerly. As a blacksmith, it naturally paid close attention to such special materials. If there were enough materials, he might be able to use them to upgrade the Flaming River spacecraft. It looks like there's probably tens of thousands of tons, Wang Ting said in astonishment. Wow, there are tens of thousands of tons. That's great, enough for me to upgrade the Flaming River spacecraft, Roundball exclaimed with joy. Senior Zhulong Shuang, you're too generous. You even gave me tens of thousands of tons of Solar Dragon stones, Wang Ting said to Zhulong Shuang. It's nothing. These Solar Dragon stones are only of 100,000-year quality, at most suitable for refining Heaven Stage weapons. I suppose that Heaven Stage weapons might not catch your eye, so I had to prepare a little more. They can be used for spacecraft upgrades, Zhulong Shuang said with a smile. Thank you, Wang Ting said. As long as you like it. Zhulong Shuang heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. Gift-giving was an art, and if the gift didn't touch the recipient's heart, it might as well not have been given. Wang Ting, aren't you going to see the gift my sister gave you? Tong Yen said with a faint smile. Your sister? Zhulong Shuang couldn't help but look at Tong Yen in surprise. This little girl looked somewhat familiar, but she couldn't recall where she had seen her. My sister's name is Tong Ya, Tong Yen said casually, lifting her chin. In Wang Ting's eyes, she seemed a bit proud. He looked at the two women with a strange expression. Were these two women having a duel? Tong Ya. A flash of white light suddenly crossed Zhulong Shuang's mind. She finally remembered. No wonder she always felt like she had seen her somewhere before. It was Tong Ya, the one on the universe goddess rank. At the same time, her expression became somewhat serious. Even someone on the universe goddess rank came to congratulate Wang Ting. What kind of charm did this guy possess? She valued Wang Ting's potential because she had some contact with him and knew that he was not simple. But Tong Ya? The other was an existence on the universe goddess rank, someone she might not even meet once in a lifetime. How did she know about Wang Ting? Wang Ting, open it quickly. Seeing Zhulong Shuang's surprised expression, Tong Yen knew that her goal was achieved. She smiled slightly and urged Wang Ting. Zhulong Shuang's heart sank instantly. She looked at the jade box on the table with a slightly changed expression. She didn't feel any special fluctuations. What could be inside? Why was this little girl so confident? Judging by the other's appearance, it seemed as if she believed that her gift would surpass hers. Wang Ting also became interested and opened the jade box. His eyebrows raised slightly. What is this? Within the jade box lay a simple scroll, seemingly unremarkable, yet the lack of distinct features made it all the more intriguing. Zhulong Shuang looked at the scroll inside the jade box, and her brows furrowed slightly. Wang Ting picked up the scroll and examined it closely. He discovered that there seemed to be a sealing force on it. There were tiny and mysterious runes engraved on the surface, forming a kind of restrictive power that required spiritual power to open. This piqued his curiosity even more. A scroll sealed with such power served not only to protect it from decay but also to prevent others from casually viewing its contents. This scroll seemed to be no ordinary item. However, it posed no challenge to Wang Ting. After all, he was a rune grandmaster. With a slight concentration of his gaze, spiritual power surged, coming into contact with the runes as he sought the switch among them. In no time, the runes on the surface of the scroll moved like tadpoles, autonomously separating from the connection points on the scroll. The scroll could now be opened. Rune Master. Zhulong Shuang looked at Wang Ting, a hint of astonishment in her expression. You're really a rune master. They said you deciphered the runes of the spiritual Hollow Mountain. At first, one didn't quite believe it, but now I'm thoroughly convinced. My sister said you could open it, and indeed you can, Tong Yen added, equally surprised. It's nothing, Wang Ting smiled and replied. Both women rolled their eyes simultaneously at his nonchalant response. Wang Ting paid no attention to them, took a deep breath, and with curiosity, opened the scroll. As his gaze swept over its contents, his eyes suddenly burst with brilliance. He abruptly closed the scroll and looked at Tong Yen in astonishment. Zhulong Shuang's ominous premonition intensified. Judging by Wang Ting's expression, this scroll seemed to be extraordinary. How is it? Tong Yen said with a faint smile, secretly delighted. You wanted to show off, and now you're shocked, aren't you? This is a semi-alchemy saint's alchemical manual. Wang Ting said in a low voice. What? Zhulong Shuang's expression changed slightly. She looked at Tong Yen in astonishment. A semi-alchemy saint's alchemical manual. Tong Ya's generosity was unexpectedly grand, and it happened to align with Wang Ting's preferences. By now, everyone knew he was a grandmaster alchemist. More importantly, such items were rare and hard to come by. Typically, very few alchemy saints would pass on their semi-alchemy saint's alchemical manual. After all, it was their most crucial possession. How could they casually show it to others? Even their disciples might not be able to get it. For Wang Ting, this item was crucial. It could save him from many detours and possibly allow him to become a true alchemy saint many years later. She had to admit that the solar dragon stones she had sent were far less valuable compared to this semi-alchemy saint's alchemical manual. Yes. Tong Yen glanced at Zhulong Shuang, a slight curve forming at the corner of her mouth. She nodded, saying, "This is a semi-alchemy saint's alchemical manual that my sister accidentally obtained. The individual later smoothly advanced to become an alchemy saint. So, for you, this manual holds significant reference value. A manual of a semi-alchemy saint left before his promotion to alchemy saint." Brilliance flickered in Wang Teng's eyes as he nodded and said, "I graciously accept this gift. Please convey my thanks to your sister. In the future, whenever you need to refine pills, feel free to come find me." He made a commitment. The gift from the other party was too significant, and he needed to reciprocate appropriately. "Hee, I've been waiting for this moment," Tong Yen chuckled, "but we're friends, and I'm also a member of the Constellation Society. There's no need to be so formal. I'm the one who's thinking too much." Wang Teng smiled. Tong Ya was truly thoughtful to give him such a gift. Chapter 22:18, Immortal Milk Spiritual Pill, Departure. 1. By the way, there's something I'd like to discuss with you privately. Tong Yen glanced at Zhulong Shuang again and said. "Then I'll take my leave." Zhulong Shuang stood up tactfully and smiled. Today, she was completely outshone, but fortunately, the things she had given weren't too shabby, and Wang Teng seemed to like them. So, it wasn't a total loss. Wang Teng escorted her to the door and said, "I've received your goodwill. As long as the solar dragon race doesn't cause trouble for me, one believe we can coexist peacefully." "You're wrong," Zhulong Shuang smiled. "I can't speak for the rest of the solar dragon race, but I, Zhulong Shuang, will always be your friend." "I hope so." Wang Ting gave her a meaningful look, nodding. Zhulong Shuang left. She hadn't come in vain today, and her confidence in Wang Ting had grown. Even Tong Ya had high expectations for him, indicating that her decision was not wrong. Wang Ting turned back to the living room and said, "Now we can talk. My sister needs a pill called the Immortal Milk Spiritual Pill. Can you make it?" Tong Yen asked sternly. "The Immortal Milk Spiritual Pill?" Wang Ting raised his eyebrows. He had seen this pill before. He immediately asked, "Is your sister poisoned?" "Yes." "Truly deserving of a Grandmaster Alchemist. Just hearing the name, and you already know. This type of pill is quite rare." Tong Yen looked at Wang Ting in surprise. "Don't underestimate any peak Grandmaster Alchemist." Wang Ting chuckled. "My sister also said the same thing." Tong Yen smiled slightly and continued, "Let's get to the point. Can you refine this pill? The Immortal Milk Spiritual Pill is a type of supreme rank pill. I made a supreme rank pill before, so one think I'm confident." Wang Ting nodded after some hesitation. With his current proficiency in alchemy, he had at least a 70% to 80% success rate in refining the Immortal Milk Spiritual Pill. However, the ingredients for supreme rank pills were not ordinary, and to be safe, he thought it wise to be modest. "That's great." Tong Yen was elated. Not many Grandmaster Alchemists have made supreme rank pills. With your experience, you will be more confident than them. The Semi-Alchemy Saint Alchemical Manual you sent me will be of great help to me. Once I've studied it thoroughly, my confidence will be even greater. Wang Teng nodded. "Choosing you was the right decision," Tong Yen said with a gleeful smile. "This time, one must let my sister know that my recommendation was not wrong." Wang Teng chuckled and shook his head. This senior sister was trying to gain credit with Tong Ya through him. But he didn't mind. After all, such straightforward actions wouldn't give rise to unpleasant feelings. However, if one remember correctly, the Immortal Milk Spiritual Pill requires an ingredient called the Cloud Immortal Milk. It's extremely rare. Have you found it? Wang Teng asked. We haven't found it yet." Tong Yen suddenly felt awkward, shaking her head in dismay. "If you haven't found it, why are you in such a hurry?" Wang Teng couldn't help but smile wryly. "Well, one just wanted to let you know in advance. My sister is already trying to find it," Tong Yen explained. "How about this? I'll ask the Secondary Career Alliance for you, but one can't promise that there will be one, Wang Ting said. Really? Tong En's eyes lit up. Millimeter, Wang Ting nodded. Given his status, this wasn't a difficult task for him. That's fantastic. Tong En exclaimed happily. Don't get too excited yet. Cloud Immortal Milk is very rare, and even the Secondary Career Alliance may not have it. Wang Ting shook his head. It's all right, as long as you can help inquire. After all, it's still a lead. Tong En expressed gratitude. My sister and I don't know anyone in the Secondary Career Alliance. It's more convenient for you to ask. Wang Ting nodded and sent a message to several Grandmaster alchemists from the Secondary Career Alliance, asking for their help in keeping an eye out. After a few more casual conversations, Tong En took her leave. Wang Ting went back to the cultivation room and took out the Semi-Alchemy Saint's alchemical manual Tong Ya gave him. He was excited. It's the alchemical manual of the Semi-Alchemy Saint. You're so lucky, Round Ball appeared at the side and exclaimed. Being handsome brings good luck. Haven't you noticed that all the gift givers are beautiful women? Wang Ting said. You're indulging in self-flattery. Round Ball made a disgusted expression, then winked and said, with your small body, can you handle a large-sized beauty like Zhulong Shuang? What do you know? I'm a physique-refining martial warrior. The Solar Dragon race's physical body isn't as strong as mine, Wang Ting replied angrily. How could a man say no? Despite his seemingly inferior physique compared to the martial warriors of the Solar Dragon race, in terms of physical fitness, he was unmatched by anyone. Round Ball was speechless. It forgot that Wang Ting's physical strength was indeed terrifying, far beyond what ordinary martial warriors could compare to. Wang Ting ignored Round Ball and opened the scroll. He started studying it seriously. This was an alchemical manual left behind by an alchemy saint before he advanced. It would provide tremendous assistance to Wang Ting at his current level. His alchemical proficiency had already reached the Grandmaster level, approaching its peak. Once he broke through to the universe stage, he could prepare for the ascent to become an alchemy saint. At his current stage, he wouldn't be able to gain much enlightenment just by picking up attributes. This was because semi-alchemy saints were extremely rare, almost like finding a needle in a haystack. Hence, the Semi-Alchemy Saint's alchemical manual was also scarce. This particular manual contained the lifelong insights and experiences of a semi-alchemy saint, highly systematic and remarkably complete. With such a high reference value, it was incredibly precious. Chapter 2219, Immortal Milk Spiritual Pill, Departure. 2. Wang Ting spent 3 days immersed in the manual. During this time, many people came to congratulate him upon learning about his appointment as a counselor. However, Round Ball politely declined their requests to meet him, except for close acquaintances like Ji Feiyun and Wu Ming. Members of the Constellation Society, including Yu Qiqiao, also came to offer their congratulations. For them, Wang Ting becoming a member of the Academy Arbitration Association was undoubtedly a great achievement. When the big boss was impressive, life was better for the underlings. After 3 days, Wang Ting slowly opened his eyes in the cultivation room, a glint of enlightenment flashing in them. As expected, the alchemical manual of the Semi-Alchemy Saint contains a lot of valuable information, Wang Ting muttered to himself. You completely digested and absorbed the Semi-Alchemy Saint's alchemical manual? Round Ball floated nearby, asking in amazement. That's right. Wang Ting nodded. Freak. Round Ball fell silent for a moment before exclaiming. 3 days. In just 3 days, Wang Ting completely absorbed the Semi-Alchemy Saint's alchemical manual, an almost unbelievable feat. Round Ball couldn't help but wish it could cut open Wang Ting's head to see how his brain functioned. It's nothing. I'm already a 9th rank Grandmaster alchemist. Many concepts converge despite taking different paths. It doesn't require too much time, Wang Ting explained. That's still freakish. I can guarantee that other 9th rank Grandmaster alchemists would never achieve what you just did, Roundy commented. Wang Ting smiled faintly, stood up. He headed out. Round Ball, we should set out. The Academy Arbitration Association only gave me half a month, and it's already been 3 days. Time is a bit tight indeed. We should get going, Round Ball nodded. Without further delay, Wang Ting informed Yu Qiqiao and the others before boarding a spacecraft and flying toward the edge of the 7th Stellar Academy continent. There, an ancient warship awaited him to depart. Yu Qiqiao, Wu Yang, and others received the message and looked toward Wang Teng's mansion. They could see a spaceship transforming into a streak of light, disappearing into the horizon. Wang Teng had left, and now they had to focus on cultivating. They hoped that when they met again, they wouldn't be left too far behind. Not long after, an ancient warship set sail from the 7th Stellar Academy, crossing the chaotic star sea and heading towards the vast universe beyond. Feng Qingyang stood atop a tall building, gazing into the distance. Wang Teng has left the Stellar Academy. Ruan Banlian stood behind him and reported. Where's he going? Feng Qingyang asked. Phantom Drift Territorial Domain, 5 burial stars. Ruan Banlian said. Where? Feng Qingyang seemed somewhat surprised. Unaware of why he reacted so strangely, Ruan Banlian repeated what she said. Phantom Drift Territorial Domain, ha ha ha, looks like heaven is helping me. Feng Qingyang suddenly burst into laughter, then a cold light flashed in his eyes as he sent a message on his smartwatch. This time, Wang Teng took a warship from the Academy Arbitration Association, an eternal-level warship. With full propulsion, it only took 2 days to cross the chaotic star sea. Counselor Wang Teng, we have reached the edge of the chaotic star sea. A universe stage martial warrior knocked on Wang Teng's resting cabin, respectfully informing him. Good. Wang Teng nodded. Stepping out of the cabin, he arrived at a familiar spacecraft docking port. He had been here once before and was quite familiar with the place. We've brought you here, Counselor Wang Teng. Wishing you a smooth journey. The universe stage martial warrior bowed respectfully. Thank you. Wang Teng gave him a fist salute, turned into a streak of light, and flew toward the location of the space teleportation array. Surrounded by an asteroid belt, each meteorite was inscribed with space teleportation array formations, leading to different destinations. Wang Teng needed to find the space teleportation array leading to the Phantom Drift Territorial Domain. Otherwise, considering the distance between the chaotic star sea and the Phantom Drift Territorial Domain, the journey on the spacecraft would be considerably lengthy. Observing Wang Teng's departing figure, the universe stage martial warrior couldn't help but shake his head. He knew Wang Teng was a newly appointed counselor heading to the 5 burial stars. Having escorted many counselors to the 5 burial stars before, the warrior was aware that few returned. Comparing Wang Teng to the previous counselors, he was younger and less powerful, making the warrior wonder if he could return. Wang Teng swiftly located the space teleportation array leading to the Phantom Drift Territorial Domain. Landing on a meteorite, he revealed his counselor emblem and said, "Who is in charge here? I need to go to the Phantom Drift Territorial Domain." Counselor. Several Heaven Stage martial warriors controlling the spatial teleportation array were startled. They immediately rose from their meditation positions and respectfully saluted Wang Teng. Please. We will activate the space teleportation array for you immediately. The leading warrior, a universe stage martial warrior, showed extreme respect in front of Wang Teng. Okay. Wang Teng didn't waste any time. With a flash, he stepped into the space teleportation array. The advantages of the counselor status became apparent to Wang Teng during his journey. Even these ordinary Heaven Stage martial warriors and Universe Stage martial warriors showed great respect towards him. From the specialized Eternal-level warship to the activation of the space teleportation array without spending points and the immediate opening of the array without waiting for others. Wang Teng thoroughly experienced the privileges of his counselor status. The group of warriors, led by the Universe Stage martial warrior, didn't dare to delay. They immediately activated the space teleportation array. Complex and mysterious runes on the ground lit up instantly, and attribute bubbles emerged. Wang Ting cast a glance at them, and his spiritual power swept through, picking them up. Boom! A silvery white column of light shot into the sky, and Wang Teng's figure disappeared on the spot. After seeing Wang Ting off, the warriors breathed a sigh of relief. That counselor is so young. A heaven stage martial warrior couldn't help but marvel. Yes, he looks even younger than us and has become a counselor. I wonder what background he has. Another heaven stage martial warrior expressed envy. Wait a minute, isn't our space teleportation array connected to the Phantom Drift territorial domain? Several heaven stage martial warriors suddenly realized. Another counselor going to the Phantom Drift territorial domain to meet his end. Their envy vanished instantly, and it was replaced by sympathy. I remember now. A few days ago, one heard from a friend at the academy that there's a new counselor named Wang Teng, a freshman from the 7th Stellar Academy. One heaven stage martial warrior suddenly spoke up. Freshman? The other heaven stage martial warriors were shocked. How can a freshman become a counselor? Someone questioned in confusion. Who knows, but I heard he offended quite a few people. Now it seems to be true, or else he wouldn't have been assigned to the Phantom Drift territorial domain to meet his end. I heard that he's the champion of the 7th Stellar Academy freshman leaderboard and he got onto the star rankings. He's very famous. He made it to the star rankings? I remember now. Someone mentioned him before. He's the highly anticipated talent among the new students. But he's unlucky, being assigned to the Phantom Drift territorial domain. Most of the previous counselors who went there never came back. Yeah, that's right. I hope this counselor Wang Ting can hold on for a few days. It's a pity to hear news of his death. He's a talented individual who made it to the star rankings. The discussions were filled with sympathy and regret. The universe stage martial warrior's gaze flickered a few times. He spoke in a deep voice. Enough, stop discussing. Matters involving the counselors of the Academy Arbitration Association are not something we can talk about casually. Be careful not to be overheard. Right. The heaven stage martial warriors immediately reacted. They nodded in agreement. The stars shifted and the sky transformed. Wang Ting felt a momentary blur, and he found himself beneath another starry sky. This was an extremely remote and uninhabited planet. Taking a look around, he walked out of the teleportation array. The warriors responsible for maintaining the array saw only one person and knew his identity was extraordinary. They immediately bowed respectfully. Wang Ting nodded, took out his Devil Slayer spacecraft, and turned into a stream of light, soaring into the cosmic void. Round ball, lock on to the 5 burial stars. Alrighty, let's go. Round ball appeared, responding excitedly. Having spent quite some time at the Stellar Academy, it was finally getting a chance to explore beyond. Chapter 2220. That's right, a fat sheep. Phantom Drift territorial domain. A sleek, menacing spacecraft sailed through the cosmic void. Seated in the cockpit, Wang Teng opened the panoramic simulation, gazing at the unfamiliar expanse of stars outside, feeling a sense of awe. The universe was truly immense. The last time he ventured out for a mission, he departed from the chaotic star sea and headed straight to the Devilwood star. Along the way, he hadn't taken the time to appreciate the surrounding scenery. Now, leaving the chaotic star sea again, he was headed to an entirely unfamiliar territory, the Phantom Drift territorial domain. The chaotic star sea, the Witch Tower territorial domain, the Phantom Drift territorial domain, and even the Liuguang territorial domain where the Great Qian Empire was located were all very far away. They were separated by countless territorial domains. If martial warriors relied on their own flight, who knew how much time it would consume? In the past, Wang Teng couldn't even imagine himself crossing such vast distances for interstellar travel. After all, for those born on Earth, the universe was too vast, and it symbolized unpredictable dangers. People's footsteps were limited to the few uninhabited planets around Earth. Interstellar travel was once unimaginable, let alone journeys across the immense territorial domains. However, now he seemed to have grown accustomed to it. Since leaving Earth, he had gradually become familiar with this solitary voyage. The path of a warrior was often solitary. But fortunately, what are you thinking about? Round Ball floated around him and leaned over curiously with its big round eyes. This fellow's expression was a little strange. Nothing much, Wang Teng replied nonchalantly, placing one hand on the round forehead and pushing it away gently. TSK. Round Ball pouted. How many days until we arrive? Wang Teng asked. About 5 days, and we've already entered the Phantom Drift territorial domain, Round Ball said, checking the star map. Wang Teng nodded and said, should be enough time. Still, we need to be cautious. The Phantom Drift territorial domain is quite chaotic, and universe pirates often appear. If we get targeted by some major pirates, it could be troublesome, Round Ball warned. Universe pirates? Wang Teng exclaimed. Yeah, like pirates, but they're powerful martial warriors. I told you earlier that it's best to hire some strong martial warriors as bodyguards to travel to the 5 burial stars together. Yet you insisted on going alone. What if we encounter pirates who are at the heaven stage or universe stage martial warriors? Round Barley complained. If we encounter them, we encounter them. With my strength, dealing with ordinary heaven stage martial warriors is a piece of cake. Wang Teng exuded confidence, and indeed, he had the credentials to be confident. The heaven stage martial warriors outside can't be more powerful than the talented warriors in the stellar academies, right? The problem is many of them are desperados, Round Ball said. Fearless but a bit tricky, Wang Teng nodded, stroking his chin. What if we run into universe stage pirates? Round Ball asked again. Can you not jinx me? Wang Teng was a bit speechless and then exclaimed, by the way, how could universe stage powerhouses become space pirates? ISNT serving other factions better. 2. It's related to the unique environment in the Phantom Drift territorial domain. It's chaotic here, and sometimes, a martial warrior serving a faction dies even faster than a universe pirate. Besides, being a universe pirate brings in money faster, and it's more tempting since it's free and unrestrained, Round Ball explained. Moreover, when they appear on other planets, how many people would know they are universe pirates? Of course, some martial warriors who are unwilling to become universe pirates have also left the Phantom Drift territorial domain to develop in other territorial domains. Sounds reasonable. Wang Teng sighed. It seems that if we encounter them, our only option is to run. I thought you were powerful. Do you really think you can fight with universe stage martial warriors? Round Ball complained. It was reminding Wang Teng that while he had indeed defeated several universe stage beings, the situations were quite special if he were to face a universe stage martial warrior without any injuries and without any external forces holding him back. Wang Teng's current strength wouldn't be enough. One wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare. Wang Teng chuckled. In the direction where the Devil Slayer spacecraft was navigating, a small-scale heaven-level spacecraft lurked in the void, carrying dozens of warriors. Most of them were celestial stage martial warriors. There were around 30 of them, around 6 to 7 cosmos stage martial warriors, and only 1 heaven stage martial warrior. Inside the spacecraft's main lobby, these martial warriors were drinking and reveling. Various weapons were scattered around them, and some scantily clad beauties accompanied them. Crude and vulgar language occasionally spewed from their mouths. Damn it, we've been ambushing in this place for 5 days, and not a single passerby has come through. If it doesn't work, I'll ask the captain to find another place to lurk, a middle-aged man with a scar on his face complained after taking a big sip of alcohol. We're really unlucky this time. Normally, we should have opened for business long ago, another warrior with a fierce appearance added. Other martial warriors immediately joined in with their own comments and a heap of obscene and vulgar words. Beep, beep, beep. At this moment, an alarm suddenly sounded inside the spacecraft. All the martial warriors instantly became alert, looking up to see a light screen appearing. A middle-aged man with a gloomy expression appeared on the screen and said, "Get ready, there's a fat sheep ahead. Brothers, it's time to open for business." A fat sheep. The martial warriors inside the spacecraft lit up with excitement. They waited for so many days and finally found a fat sheep. Yes, indeed, a big fat sheep. There's only 1 cosmos stage martial warrior in the spacecraft, but he's driving a universe-level spacecraft. It must be some big shot's offspring. Let's rob him, the middle-aged man said. Cosmos Stage Martial Warrior, Universe-level spacecraft. Ha ha ha, everyone burst out laughing. They were excited. Generally, on the Universe Pirate spacecraft, there are instruments capable of detecting the life level inside the spacecraft. This was to prevent encountering tough opponents where they might lose both their wealth and their lives. There were Heaven Stage Martial Warriors on this spacecraft. They even bought a device that could detect the Universe-level spacecraft. They were willing to spend a fortune on such equipment because, firstly, Universe-level spacecraft might have strong individuals on board, and failing to avoid them in time could lead to death. Secondly, robbing someone who operated a Universe-level spacecraft would yield more substantial rewards. Judging by experience, many individuals piloting Universe-level spacecraft were offsprings of major powers. Robbing them once could sustain the pirates for half a year or more. In the Phantom Drift territorial domain, the Universe Pirates didn't care if you were the offspring of a major power or not. They would rob first and deal with the consequences later, which usually involved being pursued and hunted down. There were so many Universe Pirates in the Phantom Drift territorial domain. If they killed anyone, no one in the universe would know that they were the culprits. In any case, as Universe Pirates, they were professionals. Wang Ting, it seems like we've run into Universe Pirate. Round Ball exclaimed on board the Devil Slayer. What? Wang Ting was astounded. They were just talking about Universe Pirates, and now they encountered them. They blocked our way, Round Ball said with a strange expression. As they approached, Wang Ting saw through the panoramic simulation that a small spacecraft had boldly positioned itself right in front of them. The surface of the spacecraft was adorned with many ferocious patterns, giving off a menacing appearance, as if they were extremely fierce. Is this a Universe-level spacecraft? Wang Ting asked in surprise. Were Universe Pirates so wealthy? How could they afford a Universe-level spacecraft? It's indeed a Universe-level spacecraft. Round Ball was surprised too. It looks like these Universe Pirates are quite wealthy. We won't be so unlucky to meet a Universe Stage Martial Warrior, right? Wang Ting wasn't particularly fearful but rather surprised. He asked, can you detect the levels of the warriors inside? 1 Heaven Stage Martial Warrior, 7 Cosmos Stage Martial Warriors, and 25 Celestial Stage Martial Warriors. Round Ball quickly provided the answer after scanning. Heaven Stage. That's okay. That's okay. Wang Ting breathed a sigh of relief. He wasn't afraid of Heaven Stage Martial Warriors. Do these Universe Pirates think they can easily rob you just because you're the only Cosmos Stage warrior? That's probably why they are so blatant. They didn't even bother sealing off the surrounding space. Round Ball seemed to have realized something and said with a strange expression. I think you're right, Wang Ting chuckled. This was a bunch of fools. They are requesting to establish communication. Round Ball suddenly said. Then let's answer. Wang Ting smiled. Round Ball nodded, and a screen appeared. On the screen, a middle-aged man with a gloomy expression appeared. He glanced at Wang Ting and sneered, saying, Hey, little friend, we're robbing you. Now, please cooperate obediently. Don't make things difficult for me, or you'll have to bear the consequences. How do one cooperate? Just tell me, and I'll give you as much money as you want. I have a lot of money. Wang Ting appeared frightened, looking quite terrified. Ha ha ha, laughter erupted from the other side. The martial warriors inside the spacecraft witnessed the spectacle of this heir of a major power. For these Universe Pirates, witnessing the heirs of major powers showing such a pathetic side was undoubtedly a source of amusement. After all, they were Universe Pirates risking their lives outside, while the other party lived a comfortable life. Just by opening their mouths, they could obtain abundant resources. In comparison, anyone would feel a sense of imbalance. Round Ball rolled its eyes. Here we go again. This guy seems quite theatrical. He loves to act. Open your spacecraft and let us take over. Don't resist. We're only after wealth. If you cooperate honestly, we won't harm you. The middle-aged man's mouth curled up into a smile as he spoke calmly. Okay, one won't resist. Please don't harm me. Wang Ting pretended to be terrified. Then, He gave a signal to Roundball, and the hatch of the Devil Slayer opened. The group of them walked out of the spacecraft opposite and entered the Devil Slayer. They sized up their newfound loot and were elated. "Captain, this universe-level spacecraft is incredible. It's so much better than the one we bought with great difficulty. We're really lucky," the scar-faced warrior exclaimed with joy. Chapter 22-21, You're in Trouble. 1. The style of this spaceship suits us very well. I didn't expect this fat lamb to have the same preferences as us. The middle-aged man surveyed the surroundings, his face showing a pleased expression. The style of this spaceship indeed perfectly matched the preferences of their group of universe pirates. At first glance, he was captivated by it. As they chatted, the universe pirates swaggered into the control room, acting as if they were the rightful owners. Spotting Wang Ting in the control room, they burst into laughter once again. "Come over." The scar-faced middle-aged man glared fiercely at Wang Ting and bellowed at him. "Brothers, I can hand over all my belongings. Please spare me," Wang Ting said cautiously. "Just come over when we ask you to." "No need for useless words," the scar-faced man ordered coldly. All right. Wang Ting walked over. "Look at this tender young man. Maybe he could fetch a good price." The scar-faced man appraised Wang Ting, his gaze as if he were evaluating a piece of meat. "Wang Ting." Ha ha ha, the surrounding universe pirates burst into laughter. "Honestly, this kid is really handsome. I'm a bit jealous myself. Selling him to those wealthy ladies in high society would definitely fetch a good price," the middle-aged man said, stroking his chin. Ha ha ha. Roundball couldn't hold back and was already laughing uncontrollably. Its laughter echoing in Wang Ting's mind. It was so funny. These universe pirates wanted to sell Wang Ting to wealthy ladies. "Stop laughing." Wang Ting was speechless. Handsome boys needed to protect themselves properly. The outside world was too dangerous. He never expected that one day he would be at risk of being sold just because he was too handsome. Life was truly unpredictable. After the scar-faced man finished laughing, he suddenly reached out to pinch Wang Ting's face. "Kid, how did you get such a face? It's envy-inducing. You have a death wish." Wang Ting was disgusted. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he looked at the scar-faced man in front of him. This was intolerable. Mere words were one thing, and he didn't mind playing along with their banter. But when he found out the scar-faced man intended to get physical, the thought of having a rough big guy pinch his face made Wang Ting extremely uncomfortable. Wang Ting's spiritual power was incredibly strong, and coupled with that terrifying aura, even without intentionally showcasing it, it was enough to make people shudder. Forger about a Cosmos stage martial warrior, even a Heaven stage martial warrior seeing it would be alarmed. The scar-faced man's expression changed when he saw Wang Ting's gaze. He was flabbergasted and took a step back uncontrollably. Damn it. The middle-aged man also noticed Wang Ting's gaze and felt a tremor in his heart. This wasn't the look of a fat sheep. It was the gaze of a lone and ferocious wolf. "You've stirred up trouble." Wang Ting calmly spoke, instantly activating the ancient god's body and the true dragon battle physique, pseudo. With a thunderous sound, a terrifying aura erupted as he threw a punch. The middle-aged man instinctively raised his hand to block, but his face immediately changed. He felt an overwhelming force surging through his arm, and with a crisp sound, his arm bones snapped. His entire body was sent flying. There was a buzzing sound. A series of energy walls, formed by condensed force, suddenly rose around them. This was a function of the spacecraft, designed to prevent battles within from damaging the equipment. The materials used to forge a universe-level spacecraft were special, only vulnerable to attacks from universe-stage martial warriors. Moreover, the interior was inscribed with runes, making it challenging to damage. The middle-aged man's body uncontrollably slammed into the energy wall, spewing out a mouthful of blood. His face turned slightly pale, and he stared at Wang Ting in utter disbelief. Leader. Boss. Witnessing this scene, the surrounding universe pirates had their expressions change drastically, immediately shouting and instinctively rushing towards Wang Ting to launch an attack. These universe pirates were indeed a tough and fearless bunch. Even after witnessing Wang Teng defeat their leader with a single punch, they dared to charge forward, which was quite surprising. "Get lost." Wang Teng didn't move. He just shouted calmly. "Divine sonic wave." With the addition of spiritual power, an invisible ripple spread out along with the sound. The celestial stage martial warriors around suddenly felt their vision darken, and they fainted, collapsing to the ground. Their attacks also crashed into the energy wall, causing no damage. The 6 Cosmos stage martial warriors clutched their heads, clearly unable to withstand the terrifying divine sonic wave attack. Wang Ting struck again, unleashing a punch that split into 6, hitting each of the Cosmos stage martial warriors simultaneously. They were sent flying, coughing up blood. "Too weak." Wang Ting shook his head as if he had just accomplished a trivial task. "You." The middle-aged man was already dumbfounded. Was this young man in front of him really a Cosmos stage martial warrior? He seemed too terrifying. As a Heaven stage martial warrior, even in an unguarded situation, he wouldn't be defeated so easily, right? Before he could react, all his subordinates had been dealt with, including 6 Cosmos stage martial warriors. And this was accomplished by Wang Teng alone. Was this something a Cosmos stage martial warrior could do? The scar-faced man clutched his chest. A few of his ribs were broken. He crawled up with difficulty and stared at Wang Ting in bewilderment. This seemingly delicate young man turned out to be a formidable opponent they couldn't resist. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.